We're about to bring this meeting to order. First of all, thank you. Let me begin by saying welcome to Beaufort County's Zoning Board of Appeal. This is a meeting that we meet every fourth Thursday of the month to listen to different topics. Just to let you know that we are board members, elected officials. Is the microphone on?
Yeah, that's on.
So, we are elected board members here. And it's my understanding that, some of our board members have been receiving some derogatory phone calls and unprofessional phone calls after our meetings. And I think it's just unprofessional. We are working along with the county for the community. So if we could refrain from having those type of conversations, that would be greatly appreciated. With that being said, the time now is 5:03, and we're gonna bring this meeting to order. It is our custom that we begin our meeting by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. If I could ask you guys to stand, face the flag. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have any problems with our notifications? Rob? Everything's good, thanks. We don't have our adoption of our agenda. I have someone to make adoption of the agenda?
I move we adopt the agenda.
Second.
It's been properly made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda has been adopted and approved. Well, our minutes will be, we don't have our minutes, so we'll look at that our next meeting. Number 6, continuation from our January meeting, Mr. Trask.
Sure. Nice to see everybody again. Kevin, one request from the board, if I might. If I could have an opportunity after the public comment to respond, I would certainly appreciate it, because there's been a lot of misinformation that's been bantered around on public social media. I just want to make sure the facts are the facts.
We'll allow you a short window here.
Thank you. So I'm here in front of you following the law as outlined in the Beaufort County Code. While I respect that the ZBOA allows the public to voice their opinions during this meeting, the fact of the matter is that we are a country of laws. This project is consistent with the law. Including this afternoon, I've been in front of the SRT 5 times. This is now the 5th and last time I will come in front of the ZBOA. To attend some of these meetings, I've flown across the Atlantic. To attend the other meetings, including today's, I've flown from New York. Throughout the entire process, I have followed the law. As you know, this is a legal proceeding. And as such, it's important for the Zoning Board of Appeals to remember how the law defines the purpose of a special use permit. A coffee shop restaurant is allowed by county law on this property. A coffee shop restaurant with drive-thru is an allowed use by law on my property. It is only the conditions of that use that is to be reviewed by the ZBOA to make sure that...
But Mr. Trask, if I may, with the drive-through, doesn't that kick it into the special use permit category?
I'm getting to that yet. And I'm telling you what a special use is for. It's not to approve or disapprove the project. It's to make sure that
Special uses are uses that are presumptively permitted in a zoning district, but require a heightened scrutiny. They're the types of uses that may be appropriate in one area in a zoning district, but not in another.
May I?
So-
This is my time, right? I appreciate you can, may I just continue?
Go right ahead, please.
Is that right? I appreciate that. I'm getting to that if you let me. And I'll read the exact code just next if you allow me. A coffee shop restaurant with drive-through is an allowed use on my property. It is only the conditions of that use is to be reviewed by the ZBOA to make sure the use in practice is appropriate in the area, as you said. So the question in front of you today is not whether a coffee shop restaurant with drive-through is allowed, but how and under what conditions. And I'll read the exact code. This is 7.2.13 purpose. A use designated as requiring a special use permit in the allowed use tables in Article 3 specific to zones is a use that may be appropriate in the zone, but because of its nature, extent, and external effects requires special consideration of its location, design, and methods of operation before it can be deemed appropriate in the zone and compatible with its surroundings. The purpose of this section is to establish a mechanism to review special uses to ensure they are appropriately developed in the zone. My project complies with the county's drive-through facility standards. It's item 4.1.70. The main points of that are requiring that the drive-through is in the rear of the building and that the stacking lane is at least 5 cars. That's the law. And as such, the use permit must be issued since coffee shops without drive-throughs are permitted and do not require a special use permit. As a point of note, my project stacking lane is 17 vehicles, which is almost 3.5 times the county's legal requirement. Additionally, over the last 8 months, I have incorporated every single requirement, feedback provided by the SRT, the traffic impact study, the county's own traffic engineer, the SCDOT, and your comments. The bottom line is that the county code and the law dictates that the special use permit shall, and shall means must, be approved if the application demonstrates the proposed special use meets the following criteria. Meets the zoning requirements for this site. Yes. Meets the county's requirements for a drive-through at this site. Yes. Is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the development code. Yes, as the county code is the legal enforcement mechanism of the comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan defers to the county code on site-specific issues, such as this. Is consistent with the Ladies Island plan. Yes, check. The Ladies Island plan states that it does not deal with parcel-specific issues and defers to the comprehensive plan and the zoning law. And this is a parcel-specific issue. Nevertheless, the Ladies Island plan specifically dictates that projects such as mine belong in the Ladies Island Crossroads District, which is where this project is located. Additionally, the Ladies Island plan encourages for the Crossroads District, additionally, as encouraged by the Ladies Island plan, for the Crossroads District, my project improves the bike and pedestrian linkages within the northwest quadrant of the Crossroads District by connecting to the professional villages, which is the main office complex on Ladies Island, and then connecting to the north. So it hits right at what the Ladies Island plan encourages for this particular area. It's compatible with the immediate vicinity, yes. Will have no adverse effects on adjacent lands. There will be no adverse effects on adjacent lands.
Excuse me.
Oh, the adjacent landowners are all in support of this project. I don't think any of them are the adjacent landowners. Mitigates adverse impacts on traffic and congestion. It doesn't say eliminate, it says mitigates. So the words are important. Mitigates adverse impacts on traffic and congestion. Yes, adverse impacts are mitigated by incorporating all the TIA requirements, the suggestions and approvals of the city staff, the city's traffic engineer, and the SCDOT. The SCDOT said there were no external mitigation necessary, period. Will have no adverse effects on the environment, infrastructure, or increase the need for government services. There will be no adverse effects on the environment, infrastructure, or increase the need for the government services. This project is squarely in the Ladies Island plan building corridors. I've met all the legal requirements in the county code and the comprehensive plan to ensure this project is appropriately developed, which is the purpose of the special use permit. I have also met all the county special use review standards for the special use permit, which I just articulated. I therefore submit to you that you have no lawful reason to deny my special use permit, and you must consequently, as a matter of your own law, approve my permit. Any clarifying questions that I can answer?
I have one.
Yep.
On your site plan, you're showing the sidewalk that goes into the Ladies Island.
Professional village.
Right. I looked at the county site today, and that appears to be private property. Is that been worked out?
Yes. Jim Holden owns that property, and
I
I've
know.
spoken with him.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so the site plan that we're dealing with, this, I've got 4 of them in my file. It's the one that's dated February 9th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other
Yeah,
questions?
the point I was going to make earlier, Mr. Trask, is
Sorry,
in your introduction, you said this use is permitted. But the code says, is this use may be permitted. There is a distinction there.
There is a distinction.
And that's the distinction I was getting at there.
Yes, sir. My point was that this is not a yes or no for the project. It's either what conditions and how. That's my point, and that's how I interpret the law. Of course.
I'm not sure I agree with you, because the criteria for a special use permit, there are some of them that are fairly subjective. And they are matters upon which reasonable men can disagree. And maybe it's permitted, and maybe it meets those criteria, maybe it doesn't.
I have a question. The last site plan we got, you've changed the parking considerably. And the turn-in for the trucks is gone. Looks like some of the retention, the water retention has changed. As you're looking from the street to the back side, where you've put new parking,
Yep.
over to the right, that area before what had said water retention and a turnaround for trucks,
It's still a turnaround for trucks. That's going to be used for the turnaround for trucks.
even if it's full of cars.
Yeah, it's in the trucks go down the middle. Since the last time, I actually took the opportunity to go back to the SRT, and they had some concerns about the internal flow of the property, and they are in support of that latest plan. So
For
part
the water runoff or the parking?
of the entire plan,
Oh, okay.
including parking and truck terminal.
Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Trask.
Yes, sir.
Do we hear from the county?
Just wanted to provide a quick background of kind of why we're here today. If you remember at the last meeting of January 27th, the board was presented with a revised plan and with a traffic impact analysis. And at that time, the traffic impact analysis was prepared by Stantec on behalf of the applicant. And then the county had Jennifer Beal Engineering, review it on behalf of the county. Two big concerns that came up from staff was that the traffic impact analysis was based on a site plan that you did not have. It was based on a plan that had 2 exiting lanes and one lane coming in. And then the other issue was there was concern about stacking, leaving the site during peak hours. And so originally the staff recommendation was that those conditions be met when they seek final development permit approval from the staff, but the board recommended that you wanted to see the revised plan. So that's what you have before you. And as Mr. Trask had mentioned, as part of that review, we had to go back to the staff review team on February 9th. I wanted to make the ZBOA aware, because this came up at some of the previous meetings, that, to what Mr. Trask said about meeting conditions, I agree that we have been working with the applicant to meet a set of conditions. And if this were a conditional use, something that is approved at the staff level, that would be one thing. We are, when it's a conditional use, there's a set of conditions that are in Article 4 and that we are, the applicant is required to meet them in the site plan. But this is a special use. And so this has much greater scrutiny. The decision is not at the staff level, it's at the ZBOA level, and so that needs to take into account, additional factors such as, your own, I think Mr. Williams put it, a reasonable own assessment of whether they're meeting the criteria that the special use permit must meet. And the other thing I'll mention is that the language of the special use says this. It says a use designated as requiring a special use permit in the allowed use table in Article 3 is a use that may be appropriate. It says may be appropriate in the zone, but because of its nature, extent, or external effects requires special consideration of its location, design, and methods of operation before it can be deemed appropriate in the zone and compatible with its surroundings. So I just wanted to make the ZBOA aware that with the special use, you have that discretion to make that determination. As staff, we have to follow, criteria that are in the code to determine whether they're meeting it or not. Another issue that I need to bring to the board's attention, and this is something that we are considering very carefully as staff in making our recommendation, is that we originally went to the Planning Commission at the December 6th meeting with a series of amendments to our drive-through standards, primarily to address some of the confusion that came up at our October meeting with respect to the way a building addresses the street and the way it's configured on the site. But at that meeting, our Planning Commission specifically requested that staff add additional restrictions. At that time, they said for sites that are on corner lots, that they provide their access on a secondary street. When the Planning Commission made that as a condition, we made the changes, went to the Natural Resources Committee of County Council, which is, that's the, amendments, that's the path that they take. They were very adamant at that meeting that not be just simply if they're on a corner lot, but the consideration that we make an amendment that all drive-through restaurants have to have a secondary means of egress from the site. And so That consideration, that amendment is going to be considered by County Council on Monday at their February 28th meeting. So while, with the existing ordinance, that is not in the law, it is being considered by council at Monday's meeting. And because of that, staff cannot support granting a special use at this time. Because it is the will of our planning commission, which is they're the primary, they're designated by county council to consider planning and zoning matters, and the natural resources committee, which is the committee, made up of council members specifically tasked with looking at planning and zoning issues. Both of those feel very strongly, and I would say as a response to this particular development, that we make those amendments to the ordinance. So just a reminder, the ZBOA has, there's discretion that you have as decision makers in whether or not to grant a special use permit. You're not bound by meeting a specific list of criteria. That's what we're bound to as staff. So I wanted to remind you of that. As long as you have findings for making your decision, you have the freedom to approve or deny the special use permit. As staff, because of the political, I would say the strong will of the Planning Commission and the Natural Resources and County Council, we cannot recommend approval at this time.
So, Mr. Merchant, you're saying even though this application meets all of the permit review standards for a special use, you want to hold up Mr. Trask and then change the rules on him in the middle of the game?
It is county council that wants to do that. And
I suggest to you that county council can't do that.
well, they can't, but I believe that set of circumstances that our governing body is concerned enough about this development that they're changing the zoning ordinance sends a clear message to staff. And so we understand.
It sends a clear message to staff that you want to violate Mr. Trask's rights.
No, it's not our decision. It's the ZBOA's decision. And you have all the criteria in Article 7 in order to render that decision.
So are you disavowing now your recommendation of February 10, 2022?
Yes, I met with other staff members, including the county administrator.
So then I need a detailed explanation now of how these recommendations have changed.
Okay.
Yeah, because we don't have that recommendation on
I
file.
have a revised staff report, which I've summarized in my presentation.
Well, I mean, I'll be frank about it. I mean, this is crazy, Mr. Merchant.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I will remind you that it is still this board's decision. It's not staff's.
Sir, I have to tell you, I spent a lot of time reviewing this document, and for you to come in here and now say that you're not going to support it, within this memorandum on February 10th, you said you did support it with conditions. I'm getting the wrong signal here.
As am I.
Yeah, do you want?
I'm Eric Greenman, the county administrator. So I don't, if you read into that first analysis, does it say in there that the staff recommends approval?
Yes.
Specifically?
Yes, approved with the following conditions.
That was what we had originally.
Would you like to see it, sir?
The conditions have not been adequately addressed
That's
to
'cause-
staff satisfaction, and.
Well, that's because they're post-approval conditions.
Mr. Williams? Let me finish. We all ride by drive-thrus in this county every day. I drove past two today around 12 o'clock that had traffic backed up into state roads and into intersections, blocking travel lanes on Boundary Street. One of them happened to be a Dunkin' Donuts. The other one happened to be a Chick-fil-A. that had me blocked off from getting to my home at lunch. Drive-through restaurants right now are creating a problem all across this county and in other jurisdictions. So staff has to reevaluate those changing conditions for drive-through restaurants and how they're presently operating and how they're likely to continue to operate for the foreseeable future. Mr. Trask's proposed Dunkin' Donuts site is located on a road that is going to undergo transportation improvements in a few years, but that's going to be a few years from now. Until the time that that occurs, there could be severe transportation conflicts and severe transportation problems.
But
with that
Mr.
location.
Greenway, doesn't
Williams?
your traffic
Mr.
study show that there won't be those problems?
Mr. Williams, do not interrupt me again, please. Let me finish. Thank you.
This is our board, so, okay.
Well, it might be your board, but it's my podium, and I have it right now. So there are going to be transportation issues, very likely with this use, as there are transportation issues with other existing drive-through restaurants throughout this county. So the county council asked staff to evaluate that and to try to address that concern. We've done that. We've given them an amendment. We presented that amendment to the Natural Resources Committee. The county council asked us to go back and look into some additional things, right down to the severity of saying that a drive-through restaurant could not have a curb cut on any major road in this county, that all their access had to come through a secondary drive. I was uncomfortable making that leap as both a planner and a county administrator. So I asked the county council, Natural Resources Committee to give us time to evaluate that so that we could check out the legalities of doing such a step. We are going to be taking that amendment back to Natural Resources on March 7th for them to make a determination on that. So all of those things, Rob didn't change his recommendation arbitrarily. He changed his recommendation based on information that was presented to him from the time that you all were debating this issue and asking for more information. You all have asked for additional information. This is what, the 5th time Mr. Trask has been back to deal on this issue? So you needed more information to make appropriate decision. Rob needed more information to make appropriate recommendation. And based on that additional information, he used that information to make a different recommendation. So you can disagree with it if you want to, because that's your right as a zoning board of appeals. And you can deem that this is an appropriate location for a Dunkin' Donuts with a drive-through off of a single access if you want to, because that's your right as a member of the zoning board of appeals. But you can't come down on Rob for changing his recommendation because he got additional information, because you all asked for additional information before you made your decision, so that you can make the best, most well-informed decision that you could make before deciding that. So I'll be glad to entertain any comments or questions now, Mr. Williams, or anyone else on the board.
If I may, the February 24th memo that we just received, it says, on February 9, 2022, the Beaufort County Staff Review Team, SRT, reviewed the updated site plan for a special use permit for a drive-through restaurant. At that time, the SRT determined that the plan met the conditions that staff requested. This plan has been provided in the packet for ZBOA members.
Okay.
So the staff reviewed the additional information and found it acceptable.
They said it met the requirements of the CDC. That's different than a recommendation.
And it says met the conditions that staff requested.
Okay.
Okay? And the only thing now that has changed is the political atmosphere.
No, the planning commission and the county council has asked us to process an amendment to look at access on drive-throughs. The political atmosphere hasn't changed. The atmosphere of the way drive-through restaurants are impacting our public roadways and our thoroughfares in the county, throughout the county, and probably throughout the state of South Carolina, and probably throughout the country, has changed, where we've got people sitting in public thoroughfares on public roads trying to get into a drive-through to get a cup of coffee, buy a bagel, or get a donut, or to get a chicken sandwich. And personally, it impacts me. I deal with it quite often.
And doesn't the traffic impact analysis take all that into effect?
We don't know,
Well,
because there is no
but the county's engineer said it did.
traffic impact analysis take into account average trip counts for drive-through restaurants in the Transportation Engineers Manual.
It's the Institute of Transportation Engineers
The
capacity.
trip counts because of the pandemic and the operation of drive-through restaurants has changed drastically in the last.
But an applicant has to have a set of objective criteria to follow going through this process. You can't just say, well, we've decided that standard is no longer valid, and we're going to change the rules in the middle of the game.
You just said earlier, Mr. Williams, that the criteria were somewhat subjective.
They are, but this is completely outside
You're
of the
asking us to
criteria.
base it on a future
You can't have
possible.
it, you can't have it both ways. It
I'm
can't
not
be
trying to have it both ways.
Yeah, you are.
You're trying to pull the rug out from underneath Mr. Trask here.
No, we're not. There is no rug. Mr. Trask is not standing on a rug.
He has a pending application before us.
Okay.
And
He
he's
has a
entitled
pending
to a decision
application.
based on that application with the rules that are in effect right now.
He has a pending application that says that it has to come through a special use process, that you all have to decide the use, given the site that it's been placed on, is appropriate for that site and the location that it's located in. And you all have not made that decision, and you've deferred the decision many months because you apparently couldn't make the decision that it was an appropriate use on this property. And that's what I'm getting to.
That's
So
an
there's no-
assumption that's fallacious.
Well, I don't know that it is. I mean, we're still.
I do, yeah.
We're here for the fourth or fifth time. So, and I'm not arguing with you. I'm just trying to clarify what your duties are and what the situation is with the special use.
And would you-
Your job as the zoning board of appeals is to decide, again, if the use in the given location is appropriate for the site that the use is going on. Otherwise, it would not be a special use requirement in the CDC.
Correct. So
Rob's job through the staff review team is to make sure before it comes to you all that it's met all the requirements, the development standards in the CDC for it to be able to come before you all.
which you did by the way of the February 10 memo.
Rob also has a job of making a recommendation to you all. You all do not have to listen to it. You don't have to consider it, but he has to make a recommendation to you all, given his professional planning opinion. So that's two separate things: compliance with the code and the development standards, and then Rob's professional planning statute as whether or not this is an appropriate use on this property. He gave that to you all tonight. Yes, it is different than what was initially given to you, but there was no decision on this issue by you all, so he had every right to modify that recommendation. You all can do with that information what you want to do with it.
Okay, on the political aspect of it, let me read to you here from this new recommendation. Both the Planning Commission, who is tasked with advising County Council on planning and development matters, and the Natural Resources Committee, who handles matters related to planning and development for council, have sent a strong message that they do not want to see drive-through restaurants on major highways with only one means of ingress and egress from the site of the major highway. That's not part of the rules right now.
Okay.
And so what you want to do is hold up Mr. Trask when he has apparently complied with all the As of February 10, he had complied with all the rules in the staff's opinion. Let me finish, please. As of February 10, he had complied with all the rules and he met all the criteria for a special approval. And now, because of pressure from the politicians and the planning commissioner on the staff, which I think is wholly inappropriate, you want to change the recommendation. And that's just not right.
Okay. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but he didn't meet everything because as required by the CDC, because he didn't have an affirmative vote from you all saying that he could put the use on the property at the site that he had selected it. And that's a requirement, and that's the main requirement of the CDC, that you all have to deem it as appropriate in that site.
But the bottom line here, the bottom line here is the staff wants to recommend disapproval now because they may change the rules. And that's not right. That's the only thing that's changed.
The staff has never felt that this site was an appropriate location for Dunkin'.
The February 10th said, SRT recommends approved with the following conditions. And that it is, the staff did recommend approval. And the two conditions there are post-approval conditions.
Well, I will let Rob speak to why he put that analysis in there. But Rob and I have talked extensively about this over the last several months. Rob has never felt that this site was an appropriate location for a Dunkin' Donuts. Now, if Rob felt that he couldn't recommend denial of it because it met all the requirements of the CDC, then that's something Rob will have to address with you, and I suspect that that's the reason that he did that.
If I'm not mistaken, every time this matter has been before us, it's come before us with a recommendation for approval from the staff.
Well, then why haven't y'all voted on it?
Because they needed a.
Go back and take a look at the record.
So thank you all.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, sir, I do have a question.
Okay.
One of the reasons we didn't vote on it was to gain more information for us and the public. This is a contentious issue, we all know that. Okay? We want to make sure we make a decision based off facts, not rumors, and there's a ton of rumors going around. I do have one question though, because I'm not real smart. I had one of your citizens from Ladies Island call me on the phone to tell me that. If Mr. Trask, if we disapprove this and he takes this to court, do you think he would win?
If you disapprove this?
If we disapprove this and Mr. Trask takes this issue to court, would he win?
Well,
What do you think?
Mr. Williams has been to court for many months. I'm not an attorney. I
Okay.
can't decide what a court would do. But I do know that under state law, the court gives a lot of deference to the zoning board of appeals and their power. So I would think that there would be a high probability that the court would rule in favor of the zoning board of appeals because of some court cases out there. But you would probably want to ask your person who is an attorney that serves on your board. But yes, I do think the county, you all and the county would prevail if you deem that this is an inappropriate location because of the traffic and the access concerns for that. But you just illustrated my point. First of all, I don't have citizens. I am a citizen.
That's correct.
And I'm a county employee.
That's correct.
They're not my citizens.
They are citizens. We're all citizens of
That's
Beaufort
right.
County.
Yeah. So secondly is you all needed more information so that you could make the best decision
Correct.
possible. Rod needed more information so that he could make the best decision possible. He got additional information through direction from through a recommendation from the planning commission and direction from the county council. So based on that information, he changed his recommendation. Again, you all have to decide what weight you give to that recommendation. We feel it's inappropriate. I feel it's inappropriate for Dunkin' Donuts to go on that property with one access to a major thoroughfare that's already constrained transportation from a transportation standpoint and is going to undergo some transportation improvements in the next several years. The reason I feel that way is because I deal with it every day in my personal life and riding through this county, and I see public thoroughfares clogged with cars sitting in the travelway of roads. That is a dangerous situation. It's an illegal situation, and it's not right for all people that are traveling that road to have to sit or change lanes or try to go around traffic sitting in a road to access a drive-through at a restaurant, or to be blocked off from getting to their personal home because people have blocked off a state highway to try to go buy a chicken sandwich. So,
Thank you, sir. Any more questions for? No, wait. Any more questions? Thank you. Well, you have time. It's an area where we have public comment. So when we get to that point, that's when we'll call your name. Have you filled out one of these forms yet? You did? Okay. That time will come. Thank you. Do we have any more questions for the county? All right. You're going to get your chance. Come on, 2 minutes.
Me?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm flabbergasted. This is a way for, I guess, Mr. Greenway to get the county in court. I came in here based on following the law. I've followed the law. I've met all the conditions of the special use. And yes, your analogy about having the rug pulled out from under me is very apt. And that's illegal. And so we're playing by the law now. And what Mr. Greenway is suggesting you do is defer so he can change the law. And then my project can't be approved under his rationale.
Thank you, Mr. Trask. We're going to close this part of it, and now we're going to open up for our public comment. Listen, typically we give each individual 2 minutes to speak. Up to 2 minutes. You don't have to utilize the entire 2 minutes. If someone gets up before you and you agree with them, just state your name, you will go on the record and say, hey, I agree with Kenny, I agree with whomever just came up before me. So everyone do not have to speak, but we will acknowledge you, okay? So first one, our public comment is Mr. Kenny, and please, if you're filling out, please print. So Mr. Kenny, start with a Z, you know your last name. Sit.
How you doing?
Doing well, thanks. Hope you are too.
Man, that was really painful, seeing you guys act like children. So, been here's and come here's or something like that. I think the people that spoke, that came here, just like the Williams and others, everybody's have been here or come here, whatever you said last time, I'm sure other people heard it as well. I took offense to that. Not personally, I came here in '81. You could drive from Fripp Island through town, the marshes, the beauty. We all probably came here for the same reasons, the beauty. Sorry about all that, but you were part to play in that too, Kevin, that phone call. I won't bring it up in front of everybody. So,
What's phone call?
this use right here, you don't have to comment on everything. You're here for us and you're a citizen, just let it go. So, that particular spot right there is a terrible place for a drive-through. Terrible. And you know that in your hearts of hearts. I understand you're a business person, so am I. I understand you want to do that. I'd be upset if I spent a lot of money trying to get it. I'd want to push it to you. I'd be doing the same thing you're doing. But
Mr. Kenny, I just want to let you know you have about 30 seconds
That's gonna be
left.
tough. I'll do it. That's wrong. That place, if somebody gets killed there on the left-hand turn, it's on you guys, not Rob, not the county administrator. They've clearly told you, they're professionals. You guys have voted for it already. That's why there's so much back and forth. Listen to what we're saying as the public. Just listen. Have a heart, use your mind. It's not a good spot. Go drive past it. I live here. I know it's not a good spot. If it was down the street, it might be.
Thank you, Mr. Kinney. Your time is up. Mr. John Schuler?
Got my address, 17 Waterside Drive. I agree with Kenny.
Thank you. Mr. Jesse White? Miss Jesse White.
Thank you. Can I ask a clarifying question before I start? Is the public comment 2 minutes or 3 minutes?
It's actually 3 minutes,
3, okay.
but you don't have to use the entire 3.
Understood. My name is Jessie White. Thank you on behalf of the Coastal Conservation League. And I'm here to ask that this special use permit be denied. The proposed drive-through use is not permitted by right, and therefore it must meet heightened standards demonstrating it will be appropriate and compatible, as we've already heard tonight. While appreciative of the applicant's pursuit of local economic investment on the island, we believe that the special use exception for a drive-through at this particular location must be denied because it's inconsistent with the county comprehensive plan, including the plan's endorsement of the 2018 Ladies Island Plan, and because it will exacerbate traffic issues on an already congested corridor. Managing growth, creating a walkable village center, and managing traffic congestion were the driving forces motivating and informing the Ladies Island Plan. There are also direct policies and objectives of the county's comprehensive plan. This project falls within what's been categorized as the Ladies Island Village, which extends from the base of the Woods Memorial Bridge to the intersection of Sea Island Parkway and Sam's Point Road. Traffic circulation and congestion have long been a concern in the village area. And this is a quote from the Ladies Island Plan. As the focal point for Ladies Island, there's great interest in ensuring that as property in the area redevelops, it does so in a way that a unique sense of place is respected and a village is created. The area is the focal point of Ladies Island, and nobody wants to see it end up being a generic automobile-dependent suburban commercial strip. The Ladies Island Plan expressly recognizes that the intersection around Sea Island Parkway and Sandpoint Road, which Mr. Trask has correctly identified as the crossroads, has developed in a primarily auto-dependent manner, and instead directs that future development and redevelopment opportunities move away from that paradigm. There are many by right uses for the site that would be consistent with the Ladies Island Plan and county's comprehensive plan, but a proposed drive-through special use is not one of them. This is a textbook example for a special use. Here, the use being requested is a drive-through, and that's precisely the type of use that our governing planning documents have discouraged in the village center for Ladies Island. It's inconsistent with the small-scale, walkable future envisioned by the county's comprehensive plan, the Ladies Island Plan, and the community vision for the village center. There's no question that a drive-through coffee franchise at this location will result in more cars and more traffic congestion, particularly in the morning when congestion is already backed up on this critical arterial road. It's already happening every day at the existing Dunkin' Donuts on Boundary Street. And it is the consideration of all of these factors that informs the special use analysis under Code Section 7.2.130. The problem here is not the proposed Dunkin' Donuts, it's the drive-through.
That's 3.
Thank you.
Thank you. Charity Summers.
Good evening. I concur with Mrs. White, but in addition to that, I'd like to say that Beaufort High School has 325 young student drivers that use those intersections and the roadways every single day. My concern is that for their safety and their ability to enter Beaufort High School to come to school in the morning every day. In addition to the 325 drivers, we also have over 200 parent drop-offs and pickups in the morning. So I just ask you to consider the safety of the children that travel the roadways every single day en route to school. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicky?
Good
My name is Vicki McGahee, and I've lived here in South Carolina for more than 30 years, and I currently live on Ladies Island. One of the concerns stated by a board member at the January zoning board meeting was there are only a handful of people voicing objection to the proposed special use permit application for a drive-thru restaurant. In response to this concern, the Sea Island Coalition created an online petition, and actually, as of 5:30 tonight, we have 943 signatures. People signed the petition specifically to ask the ZBOA to make a lawful, responsible decision and deny the special use permit to allow this drive-thru on Sea Island Parkway. Tonight, I want to share with you some of the comments received on the petition. It will become a very dangerous problem with traffic becomes backed up onto the main road. I've seen it before in other cities who do not think this through. It will be a total nightmare waiting to happen. Another one. The traffic is bad enough on Sea Island Parkway without adding another high-impact business that would drastically affect the morning rush hour traffic. I oppose Dunkin' Donuts at this location, but would welcome it further down Sea Island Parkway towards St. Helena. Ridiculous. Let's take a look at how well this worked out at the other location. I personally like the franchise, but not at this location. Existing school traffic, work traffic, and now this. Another person wrote, the traffic congestion caused by cars trying to enter into the drive-thru will cause a nightmare on Sea Island Parkway during morning rush hour. I live on St. Helena Island and travel this way a lot, and I see the concerns about this. Another person wrote, there is enough congestion on Ladies Island. We don't need to add to it with a drive-thru coffee shop. The potential danger adding this drive-thru at this location is not a good idea. The infrastructure on Ladies Island is not being considered when planning for commercial growth and housing. Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru coffee shop on Sea Island Parkway should not be approved due to increased traffic and continued increased accidents. Sea Island Parkway is already too crowded. Overdevelopment has led to a traffic congestion most of the time. A drive-thru on the main street is a bad idea. Someone else wrote, not the right place for it. Don't turn Sea Island into 278. The traffic situation on Ladies Island is already horrible. It is irresponsible to add a new Dunkin' Donuts to this traffic mess. Let's all use some common sense. We are destroying the quality of life here in Beaufort.
You have 10 seconds.
So, we have many concerned residents on Ladies Island, Data, and other areas. As I stated in December and January, and I'll state again, the application clearly does not meet the special use permit regulation and specifically does not demonstrate that the development is designed to minimize adverse impacts on the environment, traffic, and congestion.
Thank you,
In
ma'am.
closing, can I say one sentence?
Time's up.
Okay, thank you.
Annette Baker. Annette.
Good evening and thank you. I'm Annette Baker. I live on Sage Drive in Oyster Bluff on Ladies Island. As you remember, when we met last month, I opposed the special use permit. Since that time that we met last, we've reached out to the community, as Vicki has noted previously, to find out more about what other residents and folks think about this proposal. Many of them were aware of it. It wasn't particularly that people hadn't responded, they just didn't have an opportunity. So what we're finding is that most people do disapprove of this proposal. They are not in favor. There are business owners across the street who are very concerned about the traffic congestion and more accidents. We did post on several social media sites to gauge information and to engage the community, and found that most people the majority did oppose this proposal. Many had reservations, didn't necessarily mind the coffee shop, but had severe reservations about the traffic concerns and potential safety issues. And there were a few who do want another coffee shop, I'll admit that. But the overwhelming majority of people are opposed to this special use permit once they understand the one entrance issue and the potential congestion at the location of where the two roads come to one. We have such a beautiful area with Ladies Island. We want to maintain that. We want to address the Ladies Island plan goals, and we think that this particular location and use does not meet those goals. You have a responsibility to look at the plans, to consider all of the residents of the area, and vote according to your constituents' needs and desires. And I think particularly recognizing the full room tonight, we have a lot of people who have come to express concern about this special use permit. It's not about this business, it's not about new business, it's not about coffee shops. It's that this is the wrong business at the wrong place at this time. I urge you not to vote to support this special use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chuck Newton.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, the agenda that you approved says that 3 minutes for public comment. Is it 3 or is it 2?
3.
It's actually 3.
I just want to keep within the rules. I'm Chuck Newton. Good to see you again. Hope we don't make this a monthly occurrence, but this is the 4th time in 4 months that we've been here before you. I think you understand our position, the Sea Island Coalition's position on this issue, and I'll try not to simply repeat myself. We could save some time tonight and get a Dunkin' Donuts if Mr. Trask would simply remove the drive-thru. We would support a Dunkin' Donuts on that basis. We get a coffee shop, he gets no hardship. Everybody wins. But we're not there yet. This is a project that will negatively affect anyone traveling to Beaufort or to Honey Island along the Sea Island Parkway, and will have a long-lasting negative impact on Ladies Island. Ladies Island population has grown 51% since 2000. From 9,700 to over 14,000. It's projected to be 18,000 in 10 more years. Residential development has followed, or perhaps stimulated, this growth. And despite patchwork zoning and piecemeal development, residential and commercial development has continued and brought more traffic to the island than its infrastructure can handle. By 2017, we were at a breaking point. Against this tapestry, progress is being made toward ensuring that Ladies Island remains an attractive place to live and work and travel to and from. A major traffic study in 2017 fueled a $30 million referendum to raise tax funds specifically for traffic improvements, and designs are moving forward. The Ladies Island Plan, developed through a collaborative effort between Beaufort County, the City of Beaufort, the Town of Port Royal, multiple community organizations, advocacy groups, and many citizens, was published in 2018. It was subsequently adopted unanimously by the Beaufort City Council and the Beaufort County Council. As part of that effort, we're currently pursuing a Ladies Island Town Center master plan and zoning overlay to bring some sense to the future development of the island. In adopting this plan and subsequent actions, the county incorporated the Ladies Island Plan into its own comprehensive plan, and Ladies Island is singled out as a special focus in that plan. The proposal you have before you is directly contradictory to these important goals for Ladies Island. Create a walkable Ladies Island Center, manage growth, strengthen neighborhoods, manage traffic congestion, improve bicycle and pedestrian systems, require adequate public infrastructure, and improve transparency in decision-making. To do this by the book, the ZBOA is guided by 4 standards delineated in the Community Development Code. The standards, by definition, are broad and prospective. But here they are. An applicant is required to meet not just one or another of those standards, but all 4 of them. And it's the applicant who should bear the burden of proof that standards have been met. We've heard nothing to date from the applicant as to precisely how this plan addresses any of these standards, let alone all 4 of them.
Mr. Chuck, your 3 minutes is up.
It may boil down to a single issue.
Thank you, sir.
Whether or not this is compatible with this comprehensive plan. We believe it is not and should be denied on that basis. Thank you.
Kathleen?
Hello, my name is Kathleen Loretti. I live on Lafayette Street with my husband. We've been here a little over 3 years. Once we retired from the hustle and bustle of the very congested city of Boston, we came here to Beaufort for the sheer beauty, delightful scenery, and history of the area. Now I feel, and I know I'm not alone in my feelings, that the sheer beauty of our area is slowly being eroded. Yes, by nature, but more devastatingly by non-forward-thinking businesses, developers, and investors. Beaufort is a delightful place to live. You know it, I know it, and so does many, many other people, as evidenced by the exponential growth of this county. That being said, to the point at hand, don't get me wrong, folks, I like coffee just as much as anybody else. In fact, Dunkin' Donuts is my favorite. Much better, in my opinion, than a grande cafe misto with 2 shots of espresso, soy milk, and a dash of cinnamon, okay, that you get at Starbucks. I think people just like to say that. And then they wait in line for an insubstantial amount of time, blocking two-way traffic, causing potential accidents. If you don't believe me, look at Starbucks on the corner of Marsh and Lovejoy Streets off of Broadway, where I have personally witnessed 2 accidents and almost was a victim myself. Not only are traffic and accidents a concern, the surrounding businesses such as Billy's Barbecue, Wayback Burgers, and the Quality Inn are adversely affected by the constant onslaught of traffic. Other examples of seemingly endless traffic blockages are Chick-fil-A and Dunkin' Donuts, also on Boundary. While Chick-fil-A has attempted to assuage this issue by creating a larger place for waiting traffic on their own property, nonetheless, at the height of breakfast and lunch, it is problematic. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but that's in Beaufort. We're talking about Ladies Island. To that I say, exactly. Ladies Island, one of the last bastions of beauty in this area. Now let's take a closer look at the proposed coffee drive-thru site on Sea Island Parkway, across from Graco's Billy's Liquor Store and down the road from Beaufort High School. Not to mention the already developed condo units at the corner of Sea Island Parkway and Meridian. If I am not mistaken, people grab a coffee on their way to work and school, rush hour, creating a potential traffic and accident nightmare. As I stated in the beginning, I love coffee, but I am certainly not willing to waste my time in line to get it, nor am I willing to become a part of a new Beaufort highway hazard. Please, folks, please, use your minds and your hearts when thinking about this site. And if you must have another coffee drive-thru, be mindful and cautious of its location. Remember, teenagers are restless. They are clueless, and sometimes, most always, they are careless. Ladies Island is fast losing its natural beauty and charm, and at the present rate of development, it's only a matter of time before St. Helena's is next. And if I can just have one more sentence. Sir, John, I am very upset with what you said.
Okay.
If your biggest concern here was if you do not approve this.
I don't follow you, but that's
Trask,
okay.
you?
Ma'am, let's not make this personal,
No,
please.
my
Let's keep that personal,
This isn't
ma'am.
personal.
Are you finished with
This
what
isn't
you have to say?
personal.
That's fine.
My sentence.
No, that's.
Let's not make it
yeah, that's not-
personal, folks.
Sit right where you're sitting.
Peter McSomerville? Peter? Yes.
Peter Somerville, I'm a resident of Ladies Island. I'm here to speak in opposition to the applicant. This is a poor location for a drive-through restaurant. None of us have a problem with Mr. Trask, putting a coffee shop. There are a number of successful coffee shops in Beaufort now. So if, he'd be breaking ground now if he just wanted to have a Dunkin' Donuts with no drive-in. But obviously, he can't make money that way. He knows that. He knows that the money is coming from cars driving through. So we're really looking at, a project that's going to create a lot of traffic in and out onto a road that is not designed to accommodate that kind of traffic in and out. As Mr. Greenway pointed out here earlier, there's problems already with cars, getting out in the street and in other areas. And this is going to happen on Ladies Island because it's a small lot. It's a new dynamic. I don't know if any of you read the Wall Street Journal yesterday, but there's an article in there about this. This is the new dynamic. They're looking to put in drive-through restaurants on small lots. And that's what we have here. And it's inappropriate for this area. And Mr. Trask, indicated that, he complies and it's not going to cause any, it's in compliance with the Ladies Island plan. I was involved in the development of that plan. And the idea is that we were going to have a walkable community. Well, you can't have a walkable community when you have cars continually coming in and out across the sidewalk. They're incompatible. Pedestrians are incompatible with automobiles. That area where the road narrows down is an acceleration lane right now. People coming, where the road narrows down, they want to get in front of the cars on the left lane, so they speed up. I don't know how many of you, drive through that area. Obviously, one or two of you do. But, have you ever been out there during the day to see how traffic flows in that area? It doesn't flow very well. And I've been here for a little over 10 years, and I've noticed, how traffic has just continually gotten worse. There are more accidents, and with more accidents, they're going to have, more demand on the police. So that is impact on, public services. Lastly, might add that, if you approve this plan, you might as well just toss the Ladies Island plan in the trash, just like, every other plan that we've done for Ladies Island seems to have been done. And I'll just, add one more thing. If you approve this plan, it's not going to be the end of other people asking for something. You got the thing, it's just like I heard at a city meeting, oh, we just want the same deal Mr. Trask got at Walmart.
Thank you, sir. Barney Cristalek? Barney Cristalek?
Hi, I'm Bonnie Cristalek. I've been a resident of Ladies Island for 22 years, and I'm also in real estate. And so I agree with all this traffic thing. I was at your October meeting, waited 4.5 hours to speak to you. But the other thing I see is that I'm getting a lot of people who are asking about moving off of Ladies Island because of the traffic and the congestion. And right now, the real estate market is very good. People are getting much more than they thought they ever would for their homes. So I disagree with this. I think that a person, Mr. Trask, has a right to put something on his property, but I don't think Dunkin is the right thing. I think it could be a professional building. A number of my clients coming here are having trouble finding veterinarians because there's so many people coming in with dogs and other animals. So I think it would be financially feasible to be a professional building where people come in, they're there for a while, they drive out. A CPA office, a lawyer's firm, something like that, could be financially feasible, but Dunkin' Donuts is wrong for that site. Thank you.
Thank you. Kenneth Glasson, did you want to speak on this item?
He's an applicant.
Carter Hoyt?
Good evening. My name is Carter Hoyt, and I live on Ladies Island. And I'll make this very brief. I agree with so many people. I didn't want to hurt anybody. So many of the people who have been speaking against this. For many reasons. I too love donuts. Krispy Kreme actually are my favorite, but I don't have any problem with this, but I do have a problem with a drive-through in that particular part of Ladies Island. As you all know, from the bridge to Sands Point Road, it is horrendous. It's not like waiting for the bridge to open where you have a lovely view of the river. You're looking at the liquor store. I go to the liquor store, I love the liquor store, but I don't want to be stuck looking at it all the time. And there's the safety issue. I mean, we have so many accidents. We do have the high school. I think it's just completely nuts to put this type of a development in that place. Why don't we wait and let this traffic plan with all this tax money that we gather together play out before we start playing with stuff like that? It feels to me like we're putting the cart before the horse. And then I have to say, from a personal level, the thing that really sits in my craw, I don't care how any of you feel about Dick Stewart, but Mr. Trask has a problem with Mr. Stewart's developments in Beaufort, where Mr. Trask lives, because of the traffic issues. But he doesn't have any problem coming out to Ladies Island and adding to our traffic problems. I have a problem with that, and I encourage you to say no to this. Thank you.
Nancy Hayes.
Nancy Hayes, I live on Ladies Island, and I'm fairly new here. So, I mean, within 2 years, and I'll tell you something, driving on Sea Island Parkway is scary. You got a turn lane, you got old people, you got young teenagers, they go fast, young people go slow, and you don't know what's going on. They're traveling in the, has there been a traffic study done?
Yes.
Because I missed that, but in relation to this project?
Yeah, and I think the county's traffic engineer has approved it and recommended no mitigation be done.
Does he drive? Does he drive a car? I mean, I'm really scared. I will tell you, it's frightening. And there's an accident out there, a severe accident, like once a week. And as my friend pointed out, Kathy Palmer, there's only 2 ways off this island. You can go over the new bridge or you can go this way, over the old bridge. And otherwise, you don't go anywhere. And during the summer, when the boats are coming, that bridge is up all the time. I just feel like it's a bad situation right now, and I feel like this would make it so much worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam Goldschmidt.
Well, I prepared something, but after hearing all this, I have to add a few things. I'm also new to Ladies Island. I love it. I come from a very heavily traffic congested area called New York, which is, I think, more than Boston. But I love Ladies Island. I've been there for a couple of years. But I got to be honest with you, all this talk about the accidents and it's going to create this and create that, you can't point fingers at a business because people don't take personal responsibility of knowing how to drive. I go around cars. There are cars that are backed up going into the plant place. There's cars going into Dockside, my favorite restaurant. There are cars. I slow down, I look in the other lane, and I go around them. I don't point a finger and say, this is Dockside's problem, this is this one's problem. It's my responsibility to not get in an accident. I think, I'm glad I'm not in New York anymore. That's why we came here, we love it. But I think that it's because the population is growing. You should be allowing more businesses because the population and the need of the people are gonna override services. Like a Dunkin' Donuts would be great. You only have one on the other side. My friends on Ladies Island, I know a lot of contractors. They tell me that their crew and they would love to be able to, they don't go into Beaufort. A lot of them stay on Ladies Island and Port Royal. They would love to be able to drive through and get like a coffee and a donut. I'm just saying that accidents are really the responsibility of the person driving, not the responsibility of a business. I just think you should think about that. And the population is getting more. And you're gonna have this, I mean, I come from Long Island. Talk about congestion. I'm an expert. I'm an expert. So there's no congestion here compared to where I came from, but I do see it backed up. I do see it backed up. I see it going over the bridge and all that. And I do see all the other businesses that are currently there. I do have to wait, people driving in and out. A drive-through at Dunkin' Donuts, that's what people want. They don't want to get out of their car and go into a Dunkin' Donuts. I do sometimes because I like the breakfast sandwiches, but all the people I talk to, especially the workers that get up early in the morning, they don't want to get out of their car. They want to drive through, buy their guys what they need, and go to their job. So I think it's a good idea. So I'm obviously maybe the only one.
Thank you. Big Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. We really appreciate your service. These are not easy times, and we know you're sacrificing your other opportunities to do things to be here and serve the public, and it's not an easy task, and the system wouldn't work without you. A couple of points I'll disagree on, and I have one request that you consider. One, is this working?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The first item is that the reason that this board exists, as I understand it by South Carolina state planning laws, is the rules cannot accommodate all considerations, and it's required good folks like you of reasonable intelligence and reasonable goodwill looking at the information in front of you to make the best decision possible. Now, a question was asked earlier about what would happen in litigation. Litigation and court decisions are based on facts, not unproven statements, as recent litigation where we prevailed is indicating. And I encourage you not to be intimidated by that. For those folks who think the rules cover everything, they don't. That's why panels like this and other government panels exist. So we appreciate your service because it's not possible to anticipate all the considerations in a rule. The other thing is you may approve this tonight, and if you do, I have my request. I'd like to suggest to you what it would be is to reflect what Eric said about the potential for traffic improvements on Ladies Island, to reflect what other folks have said about the potential issues, and to frankly give prior notice to the corporate tenants or other folks who may be interested to go on the site and may be proven to make a better decision if they have information. And since there's a request before you to approve something, what I would ask you include as a condition of that request would be something, the objective of which would be to shield the public and the government from unnecessary litigation expense and claims for damages from the current owner, from future owners or tenants if the requested approval is granted. And why put it in a deed restriction? I'm suggesting you put language in a deed restriction because any corporate tenant, franchisor, or future buyer will review the deed and know about the expected median or barrier before committing to this site. Because what I know is I didn't come from across the ocean, I came from across the street. And back in 2009, we made a decision and we closed 8 curb cuts on property we own in that area over there. We saw the number of accidents and fatalities drop dramatically. Since then, the city and the county and other folks came back and did things, put some medians throughout this entire area. That reduced further the number of accidents. So among the things you're tasked to consider are external effects. There will be deaths, there will be traffic accidents, there will be problems on Sea Island Parkway. This particular business will not reduce that. It may well significantly increase it. Whether that happens or not, there will be improvements coming. It seems reasonable if Mr. Trask is here asking this of you, that he would agree that if a median or barrier of some sort is put in front of his business, that would be in the deed and a restriction for 25 years. I'll give this language to Mr. Marchant. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Ashley Twomley.
Good evening. Thank you. My name's Ashley Twomley. I'm a lawyer, and maybe we could still be friends. I would like to say first and foremost, I do not support anything that would affect my ability to get to the liquor store. I had never thought of that. While I am not here in any legal capacity, I don't know anything about this permit. I don't know anything about any conditions that may or may not have been met I'm just simply here to tell you that for 11 years, my family and I have been driving from Ladies Island all the way out to the Dunkin' Donuts here because my kids love donuts. And if there were a Dunkin' Donuts on Ladies Island, we wouldn't have to drive that far. And I think if there was a Chick-fil-A on Ladies Island, then maybe everybody wouldn't have to go to this one and clog up the street down there. And so, again, I don't know if any conditions have been met or anything about that. But I do think it would be nice to have other places to eat on Ladies Island if it's consistent with the rules. 2 final points. I'm not suggesting this has not occurred, but I've just heard this tonight for the first time. I do think everyone should obviously be treated equally. And I also don't think that the rules should be changed for business owners midstream. Again, not suggesting that that's happened, but hopefully everybody agrees that that's not fair. Thank you for your service, and good luck with the decision.
Thank you. Please, Castellano.
My name is Blaise Castellano, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm here tonight because I want to support the proposed construction of the new Dunkin' Donuts on Sea Island Parkway. I am a resident of Ladies Island. I live in Wilding Grove. I drive past that location several times a day on my way to my business on Boundary Street. I love the idea of having a Dunkin' Donuts right here convenient to our residents on Ladies Island. I know that some people are trying to say that this new business will cause traffic to back up onto the parkway and cause more delays. I disagree with this premise. I agree with the traffic analysis. The location is on the eastbound side, heading away from the traffic at the major intersection, and not towards it. Traffic generally does move well in this area. In fact, the biggest backup is the traffic light by the high school and the bridge. So there's always traffic because of the bridge. I also understand that the proposed location will have enough room to stack up almost 20 cars. As a matter of fact, Mr. Trask said it's 17. I thought it was 20. That is more than most drive-up restaurants have and is much higher than the other Dunkin' Donuts in the area, including the one on Boundary, which has less than half that amount. There is plenty of room for the customers that it will attract, which are already on the road. These are not new people that are going to be driving to Ladies Island to go to the Dunkin' Donuts. They're already on the road. So to say that it's increasing traffic is really a stretch. In addition, the location will have an indoor dining area with parking, so not all patrons will be lined up in their cars. And most importantly, prior to COVID shutting down indoor dining, drive-up lines at restaurants were never an issue. The long lines we have seen in 2020 and 2021 were a result of closed restaurants and restaurants with limited or no seating caused by the shutdowns we had to endure, such as Chick-fil-A. Most restaurants do not have these restrictions any longer, and more are open for business. Less people are lined up in their cars, and the lines are getting shorter and shorter. This new building will probably take at least a year to complete and become operational. I hopefully expect by that time, people lined up in their cars to eat will not be a factor any longer, as we hope COVID will not be a factor a year from now. Finally, this is America. We are very lucky to live in this land of opportunity. Opportunity brings rewards to people who see new businesses as progress. Progress is good for all of us. Anybody that has an air conditioner in their car would say that progress is good. 50 years ago, we didn't have that. Progress is a good thing. This restaurant will improve our neighborhood options and not harm it, as some suggest. I strongly support the construction of this new restaurant and look forward to the convenience of having it here, right here on our island. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jamie Rankin. Rankin.
Good evening to you all. I am here representing a large number of people who do support the Dunkin' Donuts on Ladies Island. I, for one, have lived on Ladies Island for over 30 years. I have 2 offices on Ladies Island. My children go to school on Ladies Island, and I would love nothing more than to have more conveniences on Ladies Island. I get up at least 2-3 times a week in the morning. I'm on the road every morning by 7. I'm home by 7 p.m. And I am at Dunkin' Donuts on Boundary Street. So it would be wonderful just to have to stay in the local area where we all are.
There's others that do support it. You see a lot of people here that do not support it. But there are more that do support than don't, and they're just simply just not showing. But I think we need to have more local conveniences on Ladies Island to limit the traffic and all of the congestion that you see over here on Boundary Street. But we all do support.
Thank you. Is that everyone that wanted to speak on this item? Thank you.
10 seconds. Colin
At
Batty.
the podium if you want to say something.
Well, I'm just stand right here. Colin Batty couldn't make it because he was sick, and he's been here a long time, and
When this is being, you have to come over here. When it's being publicized, they cannot hear you.
I just wanted to say that Colin Batty couldn't be here, and he wanted me to tell you guys that don't be surprised if somebody gets killed right at that spot. I know that, but that has a lot to do with the extra buildup of traffic in that situation.
All right, thank you. All right, at this point in time, this close our public comment. Mr. Trask, did you still want to say anything or something? Are you pretty good? You don't have to.
Yeah, I know. I'll be quick. Again, I just want to reiterate that we're a country and a county of laws. Everybody has an opinion. I have many opinions. I have many opinions about Dawtaw, and I'd like to walk on Dawtaw, but you can't walk on Dawtaw because there's a gate crossing. But that is what it is, and they follow the law. They follow the rules, and I'm following the law and the rules. And my project is in the Crossroads District of the Ladies Island Plan, which is where the Ladies Island Plan says it should be. And my project connects in that quadrant to the professional villages and the northern residences, just like the Ladies Island Plan says it should. My project meets all the zoning requirements and therefore is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And it has and will not have any adverse impacts on the environment, the neighbors, and I have done everything possible to mitigate the traffic per the TIA. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, let's close this hour.
Yeah, I got some questions for Mr. Merchant.
Mr. Merchant?
Yes.
Mr. Merchant?
Thank you, Mr. Merchant. In the staff's opinion, is this proposed use consistent with the comprehensive plan's goals, purposes, objectives, policies, and applicable standards for building and structural intensities and intensities of use?
I will say that it is in terms of that it is meeting, the zoning ordinance allows for provision for drive-throughs. We've gone through those steps, but there are other factors that we are concerned about with a single entrance and exit, onto this site at that location. And that based on that, we do not believe that this is meeting the traffic safety goals of the plan.
Didn't the county's traffic engineer approve the TIA that was submitted?
Yes, they did.
And doesn't it meet all the requirements of the code of traffic impact analysis?
They did a traffic impact analysis. The traffic impact analysis basically recognized that it's already a failing intersection, and it did not offer any off-site mitigation, and SCDOT did not offer any off-site mitigation.
Didn't offer or didn't require any?
It didn't require it.
Okay, didn't require any.
And, but we recognize that is a decision-making tool that we had as staff. And if this were a conditional use and they were meeting check marks of meeting a conditional use, we would have no choice but to support and accept the recommendations of the TIA.
But we are looking at the broader picture, and our recommendation is based on the discretion that this board has to grant a special use permit.
And when did this concern come about? Because on February 10, there wasn't anything in your recommendation about that.
It came about because we started analyzing the issue of the impact of drive-throughs. We were tasked by the Natural Resources Committee of County Council to draft language that restricted the location of drive-thru restaurants. In that analysis, and in working with our other staff members, we realized that this restriction was necessary because of the impact of drive-thru restaurants on our major, and on our arterials and major collectors in the county.
But there's nothing in the code right now that deals with that, is there?
No, this is it's a pending.
Well, let me ask you another question. Does this proposed use, is it compatible with the character of land in the immediate vicinity?
You know, the question would be, you know, we worked with the applicant because we initially had some site planning concerns. You know, and so the applicant was able to rework the site plan to meet the conditions of that T4 neighborhood center district. So that went a long way to make this compatible with the vision for that area. We still have concerns because of the large interruption, because of 3 lanes, you know, 1 in, 2 out along a sidewalk, which is it's proposed to be improved as a pedestrian, you know, 10-foot wide multi-use path along the road. But for the most part, you know, the building meets the site conditions of that district, but there's concern about the impact of that development and congestion that it may negate the, you know, pedestrian safety along there.
And when did these concerns come about? Because there wasn't anything in the February 10 recommendation about that.
I would say through further analysis of the site.
Okay. Does the proposed use design, does it minimize adverse effects, including visual impact of the proposed use on adjacent lands?
We haven't seen the vertical construction, so I can't answer that.
Well, on February 10, your recommendation said the proposed uses design appears to minimize any adverse effect on the adjacent lands, period.
It meets, the site plan meets the conditions. And one of the conditions of our initial recommendation was that they need to be approved by the design review board.
Okay, and that's a post-approval condition from our standpoint, yes. And so one other one, does the proposed use minimize adverse impacts on the environment, traffic and congestion, infrastructure, or governmental services?
I would say based on our analysis and concern with that particular intersection being a full access with no signal, that we do have concerns about the safety of that intersection with traffic.
Did you have those concerns on February 10?
We had those concerns, but we at that time felt bound to the recommendations of the traffic impact analysis. But on consultation with our staff, we determined that we had the discretion based on the requirements of the special use to reconsider that decision. And some of that came from our work that we were doing in revising the standards for drive-thrus.
So how does Mr. Trask know then what the standards are that he has to meet?
This is simply a staff recommendation, and he has met those conditions. And I will say that the decision now is to the ZBOA. So,
well, the ZBOA always looks to the staff for their professional recommendations. You know, we rely on those recommendations. And so I'm just baffled by the 180-degree turn.
I would put the burden on this board to consider all the aspects of this development. You know, the plan that has been submitted to you, the concerns of the public, the concerns of county council, all of those should weigh into the decisions of this board along with staff recommendation.
So are you aware of any other empirical evidence with respect to traffic impacts other than the traffic impact analysis that's been submitted? I mean, has the Sea Island Coalition given you any sort of traffic study that refutes the traffic study done by Stantec?
I've received no information regarding that from Sea Island Coalition.
Or from anybody else?
No.
Okay. I think that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So I have a question. I know I talked to you before about that road plan, the corridor, and I heard Mr. Stewart say a barrier. Is that correct? Am I using the correct word?
A median, I think you were.
Median. Yeah, but I asked you about that before. You said you didn't know there was going to be medians in there. So I'm curious how you don't know, but Mr. Stewart does know.
As far as I know, those plans are not advanced far enough to show any sort of median closing or access restriction at this intersection.
So this 30 million doesn't do anything for the corridor, correct? It's for all these other things on the list? Is that right?
I mean, the 30 million came from the capital
Yes,
project
sir.
sales tax.
Yes, sir.
The engineering department is currently working through they're doing initial design of those projects.
Okay.
And they're finding that the actual cost of those projects is going to be much greater than 30 million. So the improvements to Sea Island Parkway are going to require additional funding. And so it has not received that level of design to indicate where access is.
That cleared it up. Thank you.
Yeah, and John, as I recall, Mr. Stewart's comments were sort of conditional, if there's a median.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's my record. I may be wrong about that.
That's okay. That's good. Thank you.
Is it just rhetoric?
Anyone else have any questions for?
I have a comment I'd like to make when it's time.
Go ahead.
I would like to point out that our responsibility, as outlined in the Beaufort County Community Development Code, is to take all the information, including the public's comments, in consideration when we're making a decision on the special use. And that's in 7.4.90.B.1, that we should have the public hearing and then consider the public comments in making a decision. And to point out that this project is not in keeping with the comprehensive plan for the following reasons. Ladies Island Village Center is a focused planning area. On page 115 of the comp plan, 5 principles are laid out for the focused planning area. The second one was, we believe in allowing local communities to determine their vision and to find their growth. We have heard from the local community, with 940 plus signing a petition opposing the drive-thru restaurant. I've received 177 emails opposing the drive-thru restaurant. There was one in favor. And the number of people that spoke out tonight and in previous meetings. So that we need to listen to the citizens of Ladies Island and the people that use this area. And it's not just Ladies Island, because Ladies Island, this part of Ladies Island, is a business center for the surrounding area. People from Port Royal and from Beaufort are coming to the hardware store, the liquor store that's been mentioned, grocery stores, all sorts of businesses. Veterinarians are all right there that come to Ladies Island. And then in page 127, the Ladies Island plan sets out 4 common goals that are developed into 7 themes. And one of them that is very important, that we've been talking about for 20 years, is to create a walkable Ladies Island Center. And as I mentioned in December, we don't have the opportunity in that section between Meridian Road and Sam's Point. There have only been 4 projects in the past 20 years, new projects. And so we really need to pay attention to what is happening now and to make sure that we are creating a walkable Ladies Island. If you notice on the site plan, there wasn't even a crosswalk on the 3-car driveway going into the site. So I wholeheartedly support voting against this special use comp.
This is one of the things I want to clear up, because this is the misinformation that's going on. There's, I'll take 30
Couple of
seconds.
seconds.
30 seconds.
The village center is not this area. The village of Ladies Island is 1,200 acres. The village center is a small part of Ladies Island, which is still being defined by the county staff. So you're mincing the village center with the village and applying those goals for the village center, which is not the village crossroads.
Mr. Trask,
So
I've been working on this for 20 years. I know what area we're talking about.
I'm not going to argue with you, but I've read the document that you worked on.
Thank you. Well, this is that time where we will have to just make a vote on this item. Item 6, anyone would like to?
I would like to make a motion. I move to deny the special use permit because it does not meet the Beaufort County Development Code. It's not consistent with the comprehensive plan's purposes, goals, objectives, and policies. This project is not in keeping with the comprehensive plan for the following reason. The Ladies Island Village Center is a focused planning area. On page 115 of the comp plan, 5 principles are laid out for the focused planning area. We believe in allowing local communities to determine their vision and to find their growth. The goal of the Ladies Island plan is to create a walkable village. The ZBOA's responsibility is to take into account all the information presented, including the public comments. We have heard from the local community, with 941 signing a petition opposing the drive-thru restaurant, 177 emails opposing the drive-thru restaurant, 1 in favor, and a large number of people who have shown up at this and previous meetings opposing the drive-thru. There have been a few supporting it, but the majority is definitely opposed to it. Therefore, I move to deny the special use permit.
Okay, there's a motion. There's a motion on the floor to deny the special use permit. And it's been properly made in second. So all in favor?
If we can have a little bit of discussion first.
All right.
Dan, I appreciate your comments, but this it's not a popularity contest here.
I know.
Okay, there are criteria for special uses that we need to follow. Until about an hour ago, the town staff said that this application met all those criteria and recommended that this be approved. Now, I think, obviously bowing to some sort of political pressure, they have changed that position. But I think Mr. Merchant, a few minutes ago when I questioned, pretty much agreed that this project still meets all those criteria. And while I appreciate the language about the residents determining their future, you can't give the public a veto or over a zoning decision.
What? That's why
You cannot give the public a veto.
I will agree with that. I mean, you've got to make property purchases based on what you're allowed to do. I wholeheartly agree with that. That being said, meeting the special use criteria, I would say no, especially number 4. I would not agree that it has.
And that,
I would like to say, I'm saying based on the current rules and laws, but I do agree that with Mr. Williams that that you need to go by the CDC, not just, there's other factors that come into play. However, you've got to be consistent with what somebody can reasonably do with their property.
We've had staff reports before that we've not agreed with.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So we're not bound.
No, we're not bound by them, but I think it's important that we take them into consideration because that's professional opinions.
We have, and we are. Yeah.
Well, in my opinion, I think that, you know, the criteria for the special use permit, looking at this, meets the special use. However, being an individual that travels down Sea Island Parkway on a daily basis, seeing the traffic in the morning, especially when school is in session, that really brings a major concern to me. I mean, I can't predict what's going to happen, but I can see it being a very congested area, especially if traffic is out in the street. Understanding you have a high number of area where cars would hopefully not be into the street, but it really brings major concerns to me within that area, especially where it's kind of, I would call it bottlenecking, right beyond where this donut place is being proposed. So, you know, with that, you know, it really brings major concern to me, and that's just my spill.
And I agree with you. I think, you know, especially with number 4, that with that bottlenecking right there on that side of the road, the other side it actually opens up. But I think with the special use permit gives us the ability, especially with number 4, to see if that fits in that area. And I can't, with a good conscience, say that it does. Does.
Mr. Chairman, may I modify my motion?
Yeah, because we haven't voted on it yet.
Yeah, I would like to add that it doesn't meet the requirements for special use for item number 1 and item number 4 of the requirements.
So with the modification to the motion, you still second that? Okay. So again, there's still motion on the floor, and it's been properly made and second. All in favor, ask the question, all in favor of denying the special use permit, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? 2 opposed. So the special use permit has failed, has been denied. So
Hey.
What happened here? I got to call him on the way home. I said, what happened here? I got to call him on the way home and tell him. Watch the video there.
That's not the first time that's happened.
That's. Would you like it if they sit? Hey, Dick.
I've been out of town for 2 weeks.
I've been trying to get him to do that. He plays whatever card.
Yes.
My point to the court is,
Enjoy the rest of your. All right, you too.
my point, all I want to do is put in a deed restriction of the road to intend to use your own. Maybe and therefore the other land, and he would agree not to sue if what occurred.
No, he'd lose that, so that's been litigated already.
Learning that his tenants would also see that.
Yeah, but I don't think we have the authority to require it.
That's all I suggest.
So he's the only board member you call?
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, no, just, I never thought that you had this conversation with him.
Mr. Chairman, can we have a 5-minute recess?
Yes, okay.
Right, I move we recess for 5 minutes.
Second.
All in favor? We have 5 minutes recess. We're at item number 8, Mr. Paul Hartley. Requested a variance to construct a pool. Approach the podium.
May we all approach together?
If you like.
Mr. Hartley, I'm Mike Hayran, I'm the pool representative.
Okay. Whomever you wanted to speak first, that's fine. If you all want to come up, that's fine. However you want to do it.
We've put in an application for a pool in our backyard. You don't have the flat there with you?
Yes.
Okay. If you look, I don't know if it's highlighted or not, if you put the dock at the bottom, that's the Intercoastal Waterway and Brickyard Creek. And you're looking at the back of our house. On the right-hand side where the pool is, that gray area is our concrete pad driveway, parking area. We are not the original owners, we're the second owners of the house. It was denied. First thing it was told us the applications, or the applicant has 8 feet of space from the driveway. With the pool in its current location, it's 8 feet from the edge. So, and we moved it away from the driveway specifically because of a safety issue. I don't know if you all saw it, but in our request, videos of cars in pools. I spent a good portion of my Air Force career as a safety officer. I've investigated 3 Class A mishaps, which are the loss of an aircraft. Whenever you do that, you try to go to the root cause of the problem, whether it be pilot, mechanical, something like that. With a car in a pool, I can tell you the root cause is the driveway, the road, or the bridge was too close. Okay? That's the root cause. May have been drunk, may have hated somebody, but to get from the driveway to the pool, it has to be too close. Okay, so we just moved it 8 feet away from the driveway, and that put it into the buffer zone. If you look at the DHEC critical line, you can see it at the seawall. I called OCRM today and talked to one of the engineers. The original plat for the neighborhood, which you do not have, it's on the computer. The original plat for the neighborhood, that has a straight line that is parallel with the Brickyard Creek. So the thing is jutting in and out because of angel oak trees that are there. The angel oak trees are at the outer portion of the boundary. So if the line was extended, if you look where it says dock, the line closest to the word dock, if that line was extended parallel to the water, that would give us an extra 10 feet on the right-hand side.
The line you're referring to is not that seawall.
The one that says 23.35 or 22.35?
Yes.
Okay, that's bumped out because of the angel oak trees, okay? If that line was extended on either end to our property line, it would give us an additional 10 feet to move the pool away from the driveway.
But that isn't how the critical line works.
Excuse me?
The critical line is established by OCRM, and they point out where it is, and that's what we have to work on.
I understand that, but OCRM changed the critical line.
Well, it changes all the time because...
It's a dynamic line.
And it changes every 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay? The original one was a
straight line,
parallel line. When it changed to this, I have no idea. Like I said, I'm not the original owner of the house.
Sir, if I may, but you're asking for a variance into the river buffer.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's a small variance, not a large.
No, but I understand, you're talking about the critical line, but your variance is for the river buffer, which is further up there.
Yeah.
Which is
John,
based on
I think his point is if you use the original OCRM line.
If you notice the critical, the shared meanders into their yard.
Yes.
If you see the whole packet and you'll see that the neighbors as well, part of the neighbor's house is in these buffer zones.
20 foot.
The neighbor to our left, their home is inside the buffer zone. the river buffer. The home to our right is also inside the buffer. If you take a sight line from the current location where the pool is right now, the pool is still behind both of those houses.
The other thing, it looks like that you could rotate the pool and have it behind the 50-foot river buffer pretty easily.
Well, we did rotate it because we were trying to minimize, and I guess the best the exposure of the entire pool to the driveway. So if we put it parallel, then the whole side of the pool is exposed to the driveway. We tilted it.
If we tilt
so
it,
that we could
it puts the
minimize
deep end up by the driveway.
We could minimize the
I understand what you're saying,
Yes.
but it puts the deep end up by the driveway.
Instead of 12 feet being exposed to the driveway that close, it would just be a smaller portion of the pool. So that was one of our considerations for tilting it.
So you said the deepest portion of the pool is closest to that concrete
Right now, if you're looking at it, it's on the right-hand side. It's,
Oh,
the
on the
deepest
right-hand
part
side.
would be where it encroaches to the river buffer.
Closest to the deep end, okay, it's in the river.
Farthest from the house.
And when we're talking deep here, we're only talking 5.
It doesn't matter.
It's 3'6" to 5. I wanted to let you know.
Yeah, one of the questions that we noticed was if we tried, what methods did we try to mitigate or to solve the problem? And one of the issues that we did was we actually went outside. We found the smallest pool we could find, and we had to go out to Charleston to find the
Mike's
smallest
company is
pool.
from Charleston.
Mike's
So
company,
I came
yeah.
down from Charleston for this.
Yeah. So that was one of the things that we tried to do to mitigate it.
And once again, these folks are not the original homeowners either. And that was a note that was made by Miss Hillary, if I'm not mistaken. Extraordinary and exceptional conditions do not pertain to the land. The request for a variance to construct further into the river buffer is the result of the actions of the property owner. And these folks didn't build that house that close to the critical line or river buffer.
And like I said, on the original plat for the neighborhood, the contractor did for the whole neighborhood, the critical line is a parallel straight line. It's not bumping in like it does now.
But they gerrymandered it in to avoid the trees, staying below trees, that Mr. Hartley just explained earlier in his initial.
No, the critical line is established by the plants that grow there, is how they determine where the critical line is.
And along Brickyard Creek, from the top of our neighborhood to Pleasant Point, which is the next neighborhood down, it's all grass, not grass, I don't know what they're called.
Seagrass.
Seagrass.
Yeah.
And it's, at least a mile worth of seagrass, and that's all we have back there.
There's basically a plush lawn between where the pool area is to the seawall.
We're not disturbing any vegetation. Look at the overhead shot. This is green grass that I have to cut.
And we're willing also to install gutters and possibly pervious deck to swale the water flow to the side of the property so nothing goes back into the intercoastal, if that's what you prefer.
So this concrete here, is that just a poured slab or is there a roof on this?
No, it's just poured slab. It's just part.
Correct.
It's 5-inch.
It's actually about 4-inch, 3.5.
So with that being just the slab, your hardship on just rotating that pool to be out of the river buffer is?
It puts it right next to the slab.
The driveway. I mean, that is a driveway.
It seems like you could rotate it and push it toward the deck a little bit. It seems like there's plenty of room there.
And
we're worried about that too.
We're worried about that too. We pushed it away from the deck.
I put that in the.
Well, I saw you did, but 16 feet, if 8 feet, I don't think people could jump from the
Yes,
deck.
one could from the height of their platform, they surely could.
As I said in my application, I said even the most well-supervised children and adults will jump off of stuff into a pool, and I've got video evidence to show it to you. It's scary.
And we're just trying to be very responsible, not just for our family, our friends, but we're trying to be responsible to the safety of future people who live in our we're trying to project forward a little bit, not just for ourselves, but for others. One thing I've noticed about reading many, I won't say all, but many of the transcripts from the meetings, the zoning meetings and the various meetings, is that there's a very good dialogue that usually develops between the board and the homeowner. And I've noticed that you guys really do work hard to try to meet people, that we can find an amicable solution. Our hardship is that we believe the critical line forces us to have the pool in an unsafe area. And we believe that's a good hardship. The meeting before us was all about safety. And we want to be considered doing something that's going to protect the public from an ill-safe use. But we wanted to open a dialogue, to have an open discussion, to see if maybe somewhere between no, you can't, and somewhere between can we please, that we could find an amicable solution that works both for y'all and works as well for us.
I have another question that I don't understand the construction of the pool. I'm an architect and we design pools a lot and we make them whatever size.
A one-piece fiberglass pool, ma'am.
Okay.
And one of the things, my wife did more research than she did for her degree, I think, to look at the other folks that have come before the board and what their hardships were. And I looked at them as well. One of the things that I did not see, but I heard continuously about the Port Donut guys, was the safety issue. And that was one of the primary reasons that we put the pool where it is. That's one of the reasons I showed videos of people jumping in pools and cars falling into pools.
Did you guys have an opportunity to take a look at the videos, Mr. Hartley?
I didn't.
Hillary's, when she opened up my package, she said, YouTube, we don't do YouTube. So I wish you had an opportunity to take a look at it. That was part of our case.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And I understand your safety thing here. What's to stop you from building a wall at that concrete slab so a car can't drive through it?
Nothing except the pool and the wall would be right next door to each other, and I'd have people jumping off the wall into the pool. That's it. When I push it that 8 feet, it's right up against the concrete pad. So we're looking for the 8 feet to get it away from the concrete pad.
How about a fence?
It's gonna have a fence.
A car could drive through a fence.
But not a wall.
It could go through a wall. You'd have to put those big concrete nut or
the
steel,
metal, the
like they have at the
steel.
front gate of the base, that
Right.
keeps terrorists out.
But then you can cover them with the wall, rest of the wall.
So
A hedge would stop a lot of cars.
so the closest area of this pool and the concrete slab, are you saying that's 8 feet away?
It's 8 feet away now, correct.
From the driveway. And the fence that would be around the pool would be no closer than 40 feet to the critical line.
The fence is a requirement for the pool and their insurance.
Thank you. Anyone else have any more questions?
I don't think it's so that line is along the 50.
Guys, this is the one that's the proper scale. There's another one that's stapled in there. This is on its own. You got the one that's got the pull on it. So this is the proper scale right here. 1 inch equals 40 feet.
Yeah, we've got it.
I went through and tried to find other examples of pools that have been approved in the river buffer zone, and I found 3. I found one February the 28th, 2019, one February the 23rd, 2017, and another one February 24th, 2011. We're just asking for clarity.
So it seems to me, and I think Ms. Frederick will agree, that if you rotate the pool maybe 5 to 10 degrees counterclockwise, and keep the head of it right where it is, you should be able to get it all out of the buffer area.
And it looks like you're still about 8 feet away.
It's gonna be, well, as you rotate it counterclockwise, it gets, because that's on a pivot, as we take it out of the buffer zone, it's gonna be right up at the corner of the pad.
Well, that
look like it to me.
It doesn't look like that to me either. I mean, if you rotate it on a point that is right in the middle of the western oval part of it,
Yeah.
you rotate it based on that point, it seems like it should be able to get out of the buffer, or else get substantially further out of the buffer.
Yeah. And we've had a whole bunch of little stickies trying to do this. Because I don't have CAD to do this at home.
The thing that I also,
Still draws everything by hand.
I don't understand either is the seawall in this plat survey represents our critical line.
Yeah.
But when we look at the neighborhood survey, it's a straight line.
Well, the critical line is a dynamic line, it changes.
I totally understand that.
So
Yeah.
it changes.
If the neighbors have a seawall, then the critical line is their seawall.
The reason why we contend that the critical line now gerrymanders in is because the people who built the seawall didn't want to destroy the oak trees.
Understandable, but that's
kind of
the state of affairs you have to deal with, so.
Well, not being the original owners of the seawall builders, we inherited this and had no.
And
Like I said, I think if you rotate it a little bit, you'll get most, if not all of it, out of the buffer area.
I'm not thinking we can and still have the deck, right? It just.
We could get some of it out of there, I'm sure, but we have to have I'd have to do it on a CAD.
Isn't there on a staff level a certain amount of variance that they can grant?
I don't think so, not on this one.
Is it 15%? Is that?
Yeah, I thought there was a percentage.
That's the size of the house, I think.
I thought that was just the building.
But a pool or structures, because a pool.
It said structure.
That's what I read too, and I actually have, a zoning.
So if, I mean, we haven't heard from the county yet, have we?
But that would be the structure in the, between the 50 and the 60, the building, but swimming pools are allowed in that area.
Now, you're
Between the
8
50 and
feet
60,
at the closest part, up at the top where it shows them. What is the distance between the bottom of the pool over to the concrete pad?
I'll tell you right now.
On the top edge.
Like we're about
Maybe it's 8 feet.
about 12 and a half to 13 feet there.
So if you could just move that back to 8, you'd still have enough deck space, wouldn't you? To go around it?
Once again, it's the safety issue with the driveway is what the main concern was. That's the reason why we positioned it in this manner. And then also we brought it away from the house as well with the thought that people could jump in the pool and hurt themselves. This is not a deep pool.
Well, it's I guess it's a peanut shape, and you got one edge of the top bulge, 8 feet. Rotate it so that the bulge of the bottom, the edge of the bottom bulge is 8 feet away also,
And we would still be in a buffer zone at that point.
but substantially less.
Yeah, yes, correct. But.
Which might be an easier sell for you.
Excuse me?
Which might be an easier sell for you. I can't tell you that we would approve something like that.
All right.
But one of the criteria is that the design is the least impactful.
Okay, yes, sir.
So,
If we go to a pervious apron around the pool, I believe that would make a big difference to the board, would it not?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what we're intending to do, is to do an apron that is pervious.
Allow water.
Right.
permeate.
yeah, why don't we hear from the county, see what they have to say here. Not that I want to tell you how to run the meeting, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
You're ready to get that.
Sit down.
I got an hour drive to get home.
I got 3 hours.
Where are you going?
Florida.
Okay, well, I believe you have the staff report where we provide some background and then outline the criteria for variance, and it's the staff's position that this does not meet the criteria. There's very specific criteria in our code in order to be considered a variance. And I guess I'll entertain any questions the ZBOA might have. But we do have, I will say, a river buffer waiver or modulation section in our code, but that applies to principal dwellings. And there's a list of criteria that we apply, and we allow them to go closer to the critical line, usually due to the configuration of the lot that makes it impossible to meet that requirement. But that does not apply to accessory uses, and that is what this pool was.
So I got a question. I mean, is the sheriff's deputy here because we're expecting a riot over this pool?
No,
Well, let me ask you a question. They talked about a pervious, surface. What if it was a saltwater pool? Would that?
It is a saltwater pool.
It is a saltwater
It is a
pool.
saltwater pool.
Yeah, but saltwater pools, there's a misnomer to that. It's not salt water like the ocean. It's like
Right, yeah, I know.
As far as staff's concerned, and I would say also the environmental impact, I don't think that makes a difference. The pool we consider impervious. I mean, as strange as that sounds, the water that's collected in the pool is eventually going to run off.
When the rain falls in, it doesn't soak into the ground.
Yeah.
Yes.
May I comment on that, or am I allowed to do that?
I mean, once he's completed.
Okay.
All right, so we've got your recommendation here before us. So.
Yes.
Okay.
If any questions regarding the ordinance, or staff's position is in this report, and we've
You
got to do
mentioned it was against health and safety. That was your reason
Yes.
for denial. Can you explain that?
No, the reason for our denial is that variances have very specific criteria. They have to show that this is due to extraordinary or exceptional conditions on the property, that, that these are not conditions that are created by the property owner, but, some other circumstance, topography, sometimes, the existence of a grand tree or something like that. The next one is that
Because of the hardship, it would unreasonably deny or restrict the use of the property.
yes, yeah, and so in this case, there's already a single family on the property, single family house. This is an accessory use to a single family house, and from staff's position, this is not denying use of the property. They're able to have the house and the property, which is what it's permitted for.
It certainly makes it nicer, but it's not necessary for the use of the property as a single-family residence. So.
And that variance would not confer any special privilege on the landowner that is denied to other lands. And then the final, there's the extent that the variance permit is the minimum necessary, and I think that discussion about moving the pool to rotate it or something, to that, we're not convinced that there are other solutions in this property that would not encroach as much into the critical line. And it's in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the development codes. We strongly support the river buffer, and, we do not believe that this is in harmony with that requirement that we have for a river buffer. And as far as granting the health, safety, and welfare, one of the major criteria that we have, river buffer standards, is protection of the environment, to allow sufficient area for infiltration of water from stormwater, and not have it running into the marsh. And so for those reasons, the staff is not in support of this.
Thank you. Any questions for the county? Thank you. Did you want to say anything else or no?
I wanted to address the fact that the pool itself is not permeable. it's a water collection point, and usually pools, you have to constantly put water back into it. And it's sort of like a vase of roses that you get for Valentine's Day, all right? Within a day, you can start to see that it's starting to evaporate. Pools evaporate, so I don't understand why it would be an issue that it's permeable or not permeable. The fact is, it's not going to go through regardless. It's just going to evaporate into the air, the water from the pool. So it's, does that make sense to you?
It's not going to cause
It's
further
not-
runoff from the pool area, is what you're saying.
I'm sorry?
It's not going to cause runoff from the pool itself, but it's the structure around it.
Yeah.
That was a great point you just made. Can I go back to one more thing the gentleman right here just addressed? It was the granting of the variance permit would adversely affect the health and safety of the general public and be a detriment to the public welfare. You mentioned wildlife a moment ago. Could you address the general public now?
Well, I mean, I think there's some other bigger issues that you got to deal with here, so.
Are you finished?
Yeah, I was just going to say that in reading the other pools that were approved, one of them was actually in a 20-foot area from the critical line.
We have 3 precedents that have been broken already right here.
And again, we're just looking for dialogue, fair, and equitable treatment.
Are those pools that you're referring to are within your area?
No, but they're in Beaufort County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our area.
It's irrelevant anyway, because the granting of a variance on a previous issue does not establish precedent for future variances according to the state statute.
But I do believe everyone is supposed to be treated fairly and equitably, and you can't treat one homeowner one way and another homeowner a different way.
Everyone has to be treated according to the specific hardships based on the conditions of their individual properties. That's why state law doesn't allow them to take into account previous decisions of approval or denial.
Okay, but some of the, thank you, some of the issues that were brought up that helped to mitigate.
Well, from my standpoint, before we go any further, we do need to call for public comment, Mr. Chairman, because this is a public hearing.
Is there anyone here for public comment for this item?
Our sheriff's deputy, maybe, but no.
No public comment? Bring our public comment to a close.
And from my point of view, I think it's possible to rotate that pool a little bit to get it further out of the buffer. And because of that, it's not, what you're asking for here is, it's not the minimum necessary to allow for the pool.
Okay, can I bring up one issue, and this is to the county? To say that it adversely affects the health and safety of the general public and it's a detriment to public welfare, I know that's kind of a fill-in blank that you probably pulled off your computer, but I don't think a pool adversely affects the health and safety of the general public in my backyard in a neighborhood. Just, that doesn't seem to make sense.
The quality of the water that we all share.
I understand that this is a saltwater pool that is cleaned.
That doesn't.
Like I said, that, from my point of view, I don't even get to that one because I get hung up on the minimum necessary.
Okay, and here's,
so if y'all were able to rotate it some for the minimal necessary, I think if you're listening, there might be a workable solution there. If you rotated it, there might be some give and take there.
And it's not our position to tell you how to handle the application, but you may want to ask for a continuance to get you some time to work that out, because, you can go ahead and ask us to vote on it this evening, but if your application is denied, you can't refile it for another year.
Okay.
I thought,
Yes, ma'am.
I know in terms of giving and taking, you could put a wall there that had some barriers in it and fix it in a way that people couldn't jump off of it. That would be your
Yeah, like big glass shards in the top, that's.
That's in Charleston. She's from there.
Or thick hedge that you couldn't stand on.
But I mean.
Yeah, if you're concerned about the cars driving in, you could construct something, but we're looking for you to minimize that placement of the pool, and
Well, if we
I
rotate
think
it,
we would
would
be
that
able to.
suffice rotated?
We'll have to see
I
it.
don't know, we'd have to see what it looks like.
Okay.
And we can't give you an answer on that right now.
Now, this is a county question that I'd like y'all to just keep in the back of your mind. Do you all have, and I'm sure you do this for a living, transect zones in the county?
Yes.
Okay. This I find utterly amazing as I did some research. The T4 Neighborhood Center or Hamlet Center zone is intended to integrate appropriate medium-density residential building types such as duplexes, townhouses, small courtyard housing, and apartments in an environment conducive to walking and bicycling. The Hamlet Center is appropriate for more rural areas, implementing the comprehensive plan goals of creating areas of medium-intensity residential in portions of Beaufort County, the city of Beaufort, and the town of Port Royal. Now, the river buffer, and this is set by the county, for those areas, higher density, residential and commercial, is 20 feet. I live in a rural residential neighborhood that needs a 50-foot buffer zone versus
Yeah, I understand.
apartments.
I think we understand your point, but the rules are the rules.
And
You know, that
you won't
issue.
make them though.
We don't make the rules of the code. The county council does that, so.
Well, they gotta come from you, right?
No, they come from planning commission.
They come from, they take a different route.
I just found that amazing that, 'cause
They
I looked
have,
at the
they have
buffers.
more intense stormwater requirements, taking care of their stormwater requirements than a residential.
Well, they have to, instead of apartments and townhouses, yes. I
So
just
would you
find it
like-
amazing that theirs is 20, mine's 50.
Right. So would you like to?
Resubmit with the turn?
Well, just ask for a continuation.
Okay,
And
can
maybe
we get a
you can-
continuation to come back and give you another photograph?
So moved.
Yes.
Plat?
So move, it's been properly made?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Yes, if
When should we come back?
30 days next month?
Talk to that man sitting down over there.
We'll let you know.
And just a quick question. So
Thank you.
If we brought the pool to the buffer line, to there, but our pervious apron goes over the buffer zone, would
Yeah,
that be something that?
Why don't you guys step in here? when you-
Yeah, we can't answer that without seeing what it is. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Minimize it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10, Mr. Martin Snoddy? Snoddy?
Thank you all for being here this evening. So I'm applying for a variance to get a metal carport on the side of my house, and the exceptional conditions. My work vehicle needs kept in the dry as the contents, tools, and materials are affected by storms. And that's why I'm applying for the variance. And I work 14, 16-hour days. Seeing everybody else's presentation, I'm kind of realizing maybe I need to be a little more adequately prepared, but front facing the house, I'm gonna put it on the left, and it's 5 feet within the adjacent property line. And before I came in today, I gave a letter of the homeowner.
We got it.
Yeah, we got it.
Yep, Miss Linda. I talked with her on several occasions. She thinks it'd be a great idea. It looks beautiful. She's the one that would be most affected by it. And then, of course, letters were sent out to neighbors as well, and I got 0 objections. I can't put it in any other place due to septic, drain field, and irrigation systems. So that kind of leaves me with that one place to put it. And as of now, there's an unsightly gap there.
And I believe that it's just an ideal place to put it. Plus, it's how I make my living. Anytime that there's a rainstorm, tools and materials get wet, it just it makes life difficult. I'm trying to minimize some of that difficulty on a day-to-day basis. Just like I said, I get out there and work every day. And it's just me for now. So that's why I'm applying for it.
Mr. Snoddy, you said that the existing carport was not big enough?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a pre-manufactured one, or is it connected to the house?
It's connected to the house.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Sir, I have a
Appears that that one's on the line.
If I may have a question.
Yes.
What's preventing you from moving that carport forward and then slightly to the right?
So I didn't address it on this plat. However, there are heat pumps there. There are 2 heat pumps. And that kind of gets in the way. And then the septic entry is there. And then, of course, the drain field goes out in front, or as you're looking at the house from the back, it's in front of the septic and to the right. So it's not recommended that anyone drive on that.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying moving it to the front of the house, not the back of the house.
Oh, you're talking about, okay, yeah, I see. So all my irrigation lines are there.
Right.
And it's not recommended that I drive on those either.
So are you going to do a driveway or just drive across the dirt?
Just, I think I'm gonna get something poured.
Underneath the unit, underneath the carport? The
Yes.
slab there?
Yep, and then anchor it there. And it'd be a freestanding thing, so if at any point it needed to get moved and demolished, it could.
That is, yeah.
It still has to be anchored to comply with the hurricane requirement.
Right, that's what he's saying, do a slab.
And you couldn't readjust those irrigation lines a little bit?
No, they're, I can't at the moment due to budgeting, and they've existed already, and since it's not quite a priority at the moment, it's kind of a difficult thing. I'd have to get a specialist out there, and there's also a tree right in the center where that irrigation is, which could get in the way. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with.
You won't have to cut down those 2 trees, will you?
No, ma'am. Nope.
But they're probably water oaks, aren't they?
Yeah, and I can fit my car there now. It works as a pretty reasonable parking space, but it's just a matter of keeping it in the dry. That's kind of the issue.
And you see the staff's recommendation?
No, sir.
Well, they're recommending disapproval because it doesn't meet the criteria that we have to follow.
Yes, sir. And I did read that, failed to bring it with me. And one of their reasons for disapproval was access, but there was at one point a fence there that couldn't move. And it's my understanding that fire trucks have 100-foot hoses where they would be able to extinguish any fire that was to happen.
Mr. Chairman, we'll hear from the county.
Yes, any more questions?
Anything else with Snoddy?
No, sir.
Thank you. Can we hear from the county?
Well, I think you know the general facts of the case, but basically the applicant is proposing to construct the carport 2 feet from the property line. The side yard setback is 10 feet with ancillary structures 5 feet from the property. So this is encroaching on the required setback. Staff has concern. There are a lot of non-conforming conditions of the site, specifically the existing carport. So this is simply adding another non-conforming situation on this particular site. And some of the concern, I think, and this was prepared by Ms. Austin, who's not here, but from speaking to her, there was a concern that, this is restricting access to the rear of the property, and that this situation, if it were repeated on other properties, could really restrict fire and EMS service to the rear of the property.
I mean, there's a lot of houses, neighborhoods that the access is restricted to the back of the property.
Yeah.
I mean, just by their own, just even living and seeing in certain neighborhoods, I mean, I don't.
I guess the other issue, is that.
What's the net that he's going to be in the buffer? Because the auxiliary buildings are, you said 5 foot?
Yes.
How far is he going to be encroached?
3 foot encroachment into the 5 foot.
Okay. So we're asking for a 3 foot variance for his shed to put his car under, okay?
But it looks like it's open, so if he needed to get to the back, he could just go through it, right?
I don't think you're going to get a fire truck in between with the trees there anyway.
Okay.
I mean, people have shrubs you can't drive through, and trees, and
I think also, just looking at the requirements, the criteria for variance, staff had concerns that other options that did not encroach on the setback were not addressed. I think that those were also, the board had discussions about the front yard, where we have the issue with the irrigation.
Thank you. Any more questions for the county?
No, but I do have one more for the applicant, real quick. Could you make this 10 feet wide instead of 12?
So, I'm sorry?
Could you make it 10 feet wide instead of 12 feet?
I think I could. I'd have to explore more options. The current one I was looking at was 12. And to be honest with you, I haven't explored 10-foot options at the moment.
Well, that would only put you 1 foot in instead.
Would 10 feet suit your purposes?
To a degree.
Better than nothing, huh?
Yeah, it's better than nothing. It's kind of a means of comfort as far as opening up doors and things of that nature. Cleaning out the vehicle, which is a nightly thing. But again, that could be something that could be explored.
I think that's probably a good idea.
all right.
Yeah, because, one of the criteria we have is that if we do grant a variance, it has to be the minimum necessary.
Yes, sir.
To allow for the use of. So if 10 feet's going to work for you, if 12 feet gives you a 3 foot encroachment in the buffer, then 10 feet gives you 1 foot, and that's a easier sell.
Okay.
I can't guarantee you we'll approve it if it comes back to us like that, but it's certainly an easier sell.
So on the picture, is it gonna be behind the trees or to the side of the trees?
So as you're facing the house, it's going to be behind the trees. And the trees are over far enough to where I can get my vehicle in there at the moment.
So that would be, to me, a lot more appealing visually than to have it in the front yard.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, ma'am. Yep. Yeah, the front yard, I just wouldn't do it.
And I feel that since it could be considered a temporary structure, that is a little different also. I mean, I know It's not temporary, but it could be easily removed if necessary.
All right.
Well, this is a variance application, we do need to call for public comment.
Yes. Is there any public comment for item number 10?
The sheriff's deputy even left already.
Yeah, she's out of here. All right, well, that closes our public comment segment.
I guess the question is, once again, do you want to do a continuance to look at a 10-foot unit and bring it back to us?
You want to explain?
I'd like to make a motion that would.
You can ask us to vote on it this evening, but if it gets turned down, then you can't file the same application for another year.
For another year.
Correct.
Okay.
So
If I went to vote this evening and I changed the application to a 10-foot, does that change the application or?
you have to ask those folks over there.
Well, yeah, you all have the right to modify the request, so if you're more comfortable in establishing a condition and you feel that a 10-foot product minimizes the impact and he's agreeable to that, then you all can make a motion to approve the variance with that condition tonight.
But can he buy a 10-foot?
That's the.
Well, he may want to defer for a month and decide if he can find one.
That might be the thing to do, because if I make more measurements and depending on how the truck door is open at the moment, and 10-foot would just be another nuisance, it may not be worth it. Right. So, to be honest with you, I don't know whether to try to vote this evening.
You can't go smaller than a 10-foot, so if we.
I would request the continuance.
Oh, okay.
It's just a month.
It's just a month?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would like to request a continuance then and come back in a month and do a little more research and be a little more prepared for y'all. And
so moved.
All right.
Second.
Probably made a second, all in favor for continuance.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Snoddy.
plus, a 10-foot one might be a little cheaper.
Good point.
It would.
Thank you.
Item number 12, Mr. Kenneth Glasson.
How y'all doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
My name is Ken Glasson. I live at 3 Mount Grace, Beaufort, South Carolina, 29906. Mr. Mack, before we start, just a comment. I've been an elected official for 10 years. My wife and I retired down here about 4 years ago, and that was another lifetime, which she's forbid me to ever do again. And just wanted to thank you. Regardless of how you vote on this tonight, I don't think the general public really understands the work that you all do. Having seen it over and over again with staff, I mean, you're certainly not doing it for the money. It's for love of the community, and I do, as a 31-year Marine veteran, I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Hoorah.
Thank you for your service.
Short haircut here, sir. Do you want me just to take out my 27 minutes?
27 seconds, you were at it.
So just a little background. I approached, my wife and I bought our home October, 4 years. We retired down here from Charleston. One of the issues we addressed was the rental of the ADU attached to a home we were considering purchasing. Could it be short-term or long-term? And we were given the approval that it could be either. So that, and my realtor didn't put that in writing, so it became an issue. We started renting it out, everything was fine. We received notice from the Homeowners Association, or I take that back from the steering committee. We don't actually have an HOA yet, so I was called a little dictatorship, but it's a steering committee assigned by the builder to oversee the rules that they have in place. We received notice, and they said, you're not allowed to do that. And I said, well, my neighbor 4 doors down got a variance. She had a unanimous vote to approve. So they said, well, our rules say you can't. And then they went into a couple of the measurements. And I said, well, let me come out and meet with you all. I mean, I'll be a good neighbor. So I went out and met with them. And I said, well, it doesn't say it in the covenants and restrictions. So they said, well, it hadn't been invented yet. That was 1997 when the PUD was put together and approved, and short-term rentals just weren't a thing back then. So I said, well, then educate me. Why would I not, or would I want to have, I said, well, and they said, well, we have an issue with parking. We have an issue with facilities use. We don't want renters coming in short-term and using the pool. We want them using our restaurants. And I agree with all that. You know, the problem is that they approve via the county's allowance a long-term rental, but it's just the opposite of what the real effect is. If I'm renting long-term, which we've had long-term renters in there, I'm not going to the local restaurants to buy unless I'm wealthy. I'm going out shopping at a grocery store and bringing it to the kitchen. It's a full kitchenette. The parking is permanent because they have a job. They're coming in each night, and it permanently puts a headache on the parking. And then eventually they're going to figure out that we have a waterfront dock and we have a pool, and they're going to want access to it. Where short-term rentals, and a preponderance of them have been marine families graduating. They're either seeing the sights. They're very limited there. So all the exact opposite reasons. So in that discussion, I said, well, I will change it to a 30-day or more and be a good neighbor, and then I want to read into this. So in my reading and the notes that I provided, the county has now come up and offered that you can rent short-term, and they want to get their taxes. So there's a registration, and I met with Captain Byrne. I got everything approved. He came and inspected the home. I think the denial from the county, and I know Miss Austin is a former Marine, so we had a lot of fun. And she said, look, she is put in a position that the neighborhood says that they don't allow it. Well, the neighborhood doesn't like it, but it's not an unapproved use based on the laws that are set inside of the county. So I highlighted some areas, I underlined them, I don't know if it came through, on the letter that the Habersham Steering Committee and developer gave to the county. And in that it highlights business or trade of any kind, applicable zoning laws approved, and the county doesn't allow that short-term. And it says on the back, long-term rentals are not considered business. But actually, if you look at the code, and I was informed that it's about to be changed, that the county's own rules state that a rental individual, to be a business is 2 or more, short-term or long-term. For a single unit, it's not considered a business. Thus, it didn't fall into what their guidelines were of what they wanted. I mean, and then again, it becomes down to a want or a need. I want to have a Ferrari, and I can't because someone else has it. But in the end of the day, the laws allow this type of use. And quite frankly, my wife and I are in a position, we don't even know if we're going to short-term rent it anymore. I've made it into an office. But it's personal property right issue, and I should have the right to rent out my ADU as long as I am covered in that the rules that the county has set aside now, and we're in a donut hole, we're not in the city, as long as that's allowed. And again, my neighbor brought this up, and it was a unanimous vote yes. I now understand that doesn't apply towards this decision, but she literally is four doors down.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Kenneth?
Not at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Kenneth. Can we hear from the county?
Oh, good evening. Last item on the agenda. So, from staff standpoint, the laws that govern this use are it's a regulating plan for Habersham. It's a planned unit development, and it's kind of a has its own, zoning requirements that govern that PUD. And in our code, we define short-term rentals as an accommodation. Or lodging. And and I agree, back in 1997 or whenever Habersham was approved, short-term rental was not a recognized concept. I think we had bed and breakfast back then, but the county has defined that as a lodging use. And in looking at the documents governing Habersham, the regulating plan and the PUD, lodging is restricted to areas on that plan that are defined as neighborhood center and neighborhood center island commercial. And those are primarily, along Market Street in Habersham, where you have the storefronts. And so From our standpoint in enforcing that, we do not believe that a short-term rental is permitted in this location. And I will say also that the community, we have had a lot of, in addition, we're operating under enforcing the laws, but there's been a lot of pressure also from the community. There's a lot of concern about short-term rentals in the residential areas of Habersham. And so.
Well, again, that's all fine and good, but they don't get a vote.
That's correct. I agree. But it's not simply an arbitrary or, the county has, defined short-term rentals as a lodging use, and then based on the language and the regulated plan for Habersham, it's not allowed in this location. That's the basis of our denial of a short-term rental at this location.
So it's a PUD.
Yes.
And so the zoning is based on the master plan. When this change was done in 2015, did it go through the master plan amendment process?
Change in 2015.
That was, Hillary stamped this plat that's attached to the letter on 8 April 2015. Amended 8 April 2015 to update regulating plan. Is that a staff level decision, or is that a rezoning, a master plan amendment?
I'm going to have to research that for you.
Okay.
We have with PUD amendments, we have minor amendments that can be approved at the staff level, and then we have major amendments that we bring to Planning Commission, County Council. And I'm not aware that that was a major amendment. If it was an amendment to the master plan, it was something done at the staff review level. That's typically, if it's approving additional dwelling units or putting commercial uses in residential areas, those are things that elevate to the Planning Commission, County Council. But if it is, minor changes to the document or master plan, then that's done.
I'm not sure I would think that really that has a material effect on people's rights and use of their property.
I don't know that Mr. Glasson needs to be here tonight.
That's
because you all, some time ago, he is correct, that 4 doors down, you all granted an administrative appeal saying that the staff was in error by trying to regulate short-term rentals in this area of Habersham. So that does, in my mind, establish precedent, because if short-term rentals was allowed 4 doors down, then it would be allowed by Mr. Glasson with staff making the incorrect interpretation that it was not allowed. So, and the fact that Habersham's not here gives me some pause for concern as well. If they say it's prohibited, and they really need to be in here producing the written text that says that short-term rentals are a prohibited use in this area.
Right, because it's just written on here in pen. What does?
Yeah, Hillary wrote that in pen based upon the developer calling her and telling her that.
Okay.
I would think that that's something that would need to go through a full master plan amendment application.
That's a variance based on our interpretation of the Habersham, the covenants.
Well, you're not really granting a variance, you're basically doing an amendment.
But they're allowed to do it in the county, but if the covenants restricts them.
The covenants don't. The covenants don't.
They don't.
They have not changed that. I think there's an expense incurred, substantial expense, why it hasn't been resubmitted.
I would imagine it would require a vote of all the owners.
And that's another thing. I don't think that the existing previous owners and the growth that's occurred in there would align with a vote necessary to uphold what they want to do. I think the preponderance of the residents that I've met and talked to, and I have vetted this around and spoken to the neighbors, and what I found is that people want to have the right, they can, why would they allow you to rent under the business laws 30 days or more for the exact same facility and not for short term? And my only conclusion would be is that the Habersham homeowners association or the business entity, they do short-term rentals to bring in prospective buyers. And they don't want the competition, I don't know. But if I'm
That makes
responsible
sense,
for
doesn't it?
my facility, my property, and if I have a renter here, I'm responsible for that renter, short-term or long-term. I think it would be a giant coup for Habersham to allow it and to really promote it. So you get people in there, because the property values, so people go and visit, and they want to, wow, this is a great place, I'd like to live here.
And, I do remember that last
Yeah, I do
appeal.
too.
I don't recall the exact details of it right off.
I
but-
think it was over the garage apartment, wasn't it?
Yes, sir, I have a detached garage.
It was, and it basically centered around a previous decision that previous zoning board of appeals made that says that something regarding 29 days and 30 days. Some of you that have been on the zoning board of appeals might remember such a decision regarding short-term rentals in the past, but you all approved that, so, I think that establishes the fact that, staff was in error of saying that short-term rentals were prohibited in this area of Harrison.
Especially as what Chad is saying, that they haven't changed their guidelines or covenants.
Yeah, they can certainly try and do that if you want to, but, okay, all right.
All right.
Anything else, Mr. Burton?
Public comment.
No public comment here on the
Yes,
appeal.
public
so-
comment on this?
No, not on appeal.
No, not yet.
Nobody here left to comment.
Nobody's left anyway, so.
All right, well, we closed that part of it. Appealing decision, I guess we can be.
Mr. Chairman, considering the materials before us and the philosophy that you can't treat similarly situated landowners differently, and based on the prior decision we made in a similar circumstance, I move that we reverse the decision of the director and approve the short-term rental use.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and second. All in favor?
So just saying that, I will make it clear for the record that there will be a requirement for a business license and a short-term rental permit.
Yeah, certainly has to comply with all,
Our
yeah.
accommodations practices.
They got to comply with all county code, yes.
Good call.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've been very patient, so.
Yes, you have.
It brings back the old blood. And I was actually appalled at a couple of people that were talking to you verbally.
Chairman,
Part of the job.
why do I have these?
I don't know why, I was looking for it earlier.
You can bang it so close.
Are you an overtime ring?
Thank you.
Yes, sir, I am. How you doing?
Can I make a motion to
Where you
adjourn?
from?
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Where were you at?
Guys have a good